I can do what I want when I want to do it. I can do what I need when I need to get through it. When I need someone else, can't be too proud for help, but gotta look after myself. Sometimes it can get lonely, never living in the moment. When the sun is shining, hope that I'm reminded, like how the clouds keep changing. I'm always steady rearranging, going back to the basics of what a good day is. What a good day is. And that's exactly what the day is. But it's exactly what you make it. So please don't go wasting. And I'll do the same, even if it's raining. How could I complain? And my feels got me feeling some type of way. You always free to take a break. Hope you feel what I felt. You gotta look after yourself. Sometimes it can get lonely, never living in the moment. When the sun is shining, hope that I'm reminded, like how the clouds keep changing. I'm always steady rearranging, going back to the basics of what a good day is. Of what a good day is. What a good day is. And that's exactly what today is.
All right, it is that time on this Monday morning. Hopefully y'all are doing well. You know what to do. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me. Let's go ahead and get into it. Oh yeah, we're looking all crispy and clean on the screen too. Welcome y'all. Welcome back to another YouTube live stream and another episode of the Music Morning Show. I'm your host Classy Beats with classybeats.com, and this morning we are going to get into it. We've got some breaking news, somewhat breaking news. Jay-Z taking home a win. Woo-wee, it's getting wild out here. And of course, we did miss the redirect from last Friday in the ASAP Rocky trial, so we are going to be going over that today. If y'all haven't seen it, make sure you tune in. If you have, make sure you give your thoughts and commentary since you've had the weekend to think about it. So it's going to be a great show today. Looking forward to see what the verdict will be tomorrow. But before I get into it, I gotta say what's up to the people, man. Of course, we got my awesome, amazing Amy is in here. Good morning, Amy. Shout out to Michi in the building. My dog Les Cleaver is up in here. Good morning, good morning. Ryan S is back at it. We've got Libby22 SC Girl. Shadow Fox is in here as well. A Fitz, good to see you. Jay Buckmaster back at it. We've got Monica is in here as well. And shout out to everybody who is in the building. So good to see y'all. If you could, you know what to do. Make sure you like the video on your way in. Not only is it free, not only does it help the show continue to grow, but it lets the algorithm know you guys are enjoying the show, and it shares the video and the channel with more people. All right, if y'all are ready, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. I'm not gonna waste any more time because y'all know John Lewin was going in on Friday, so we've got a lot of the court proceedings we got to get into today. So let me know how y'all's weekend is, and I guess I need to say happy President's Day as well. Some of y'all got a 3-day weekend, so that's dope. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. Y'all have to let me know in the chat if you're doing anything special today for President's Day. Y'all know we're here every weekday. We don't miss. So it's good to see y'all in here as well. All right, let us go ahead and get into today's topics. All right, let me make sure we're good over here. We should be good. Boom. Now, I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, but man, y'all gotta let me pop off when I'm right. I have to say it. I told you so. I told you so. From day one, we broke the news on what was going on with this whole Jay-Z lawsuit. We went through and reviewed the whole entire lawsuit, Jay-Z versus Tony Busby versus this Jane Doe. And from day one, before we had any background commentary for anybody else who had covered it, go check the receipts. We looked through that entire lawsuit and we said, stop the cap. Something's not making sense. Y'all saw it. We reviewed it. You saw it here. And now it's looking like Jay-Z finally gets to take his victory lap. The way he was doubling down, the way Jay-Z said, I'm standing on this. This did not happen. I don't care what anybody says. We're going to take this all the way if we have to. Jay-Z is getting the win today. And along with that, Jay-Z is officially a victim. We have to think about that and we have to factor this in. We've talked about it so many times as we've been covering the goings on in the legal battle back and forth between Tony Busby, Alex Spiro, and Jay-Z. And Jay-Z is a victim of what's looking like a grave error on Tony Busby's part. I don't know what's going to happen to him. And we're going to go through in a second and talk about what Tony Busby is looking at facing when it comes to a legal standpoint, because he still has some work he has to do that was ordered by Judge Torres. We'll get into it in a second. Let's check out this video from NBC. NBC News, shout out to them. They actually did the interview of Jane Doe, the initial interview that started this spiraling downward.
Tonight, Sean Carter, better known as rap superstar and business mogul Jay-Z, able to declare victory after the case against him was voluntarily dismissed with prejudice, according to a filing in U.S. District Court in Manhattan.
And again, with prejudice, that is a big deal. If this thing was dismissed with prejudice, which means they're never going to file this again. They can't file this again. They can't bring up this lawsuit. So Jane Doe is done. She's out of there. Absolutely wild and insane. With prejudice. Crazy.
Tonight, Sean Carter, better known as rap superstar and business mogul Jay-Z, able to declare victory after the case against him was voluntarily dismissed with prejudice, according to a filing in U.S. District Court in Manhattan.
Shame.
The civil suit against Jay-Z was on behalf of an adult woman who said she was raped back in 2000, following the MTV Video Music Awards when she was just 13 years old and went to an after party.
What made you want to come forward and talk today?
Because
this was from the interview.
I think that I've been quiet long enough about what I've been through.
The Jane Doe accuser, a 38-year-old mother from Alabama, spoke with NBC News in December and asked us not to reveal her identity. Her story then had several inconsistencies, among them that her father drove about 5 hours to pick her up after the alleged assault.
I want to know y'all's opinion on this. Do you think it's time to expose Jane Doe? Personally, I don't know what I would do at this point. I know Tony Busby is getting buried. We're burying Tony Busby. That's an easy one. When it comes to Jane Doe, this is tough. It's tough because if she is having mental issues and she has the mental illness as she claimed, which now seeing that this is dismissed, I don't believe anything she says. Not that I did before. If she's struggling with those things, is there some grace that you show here? Because essentially, Tony Busby was the one that should have done his due diligence and went through and saw that this was BS. Do you show some grace to Jane Doe, or is it time to expose her? Y'all got to let me know.
Among them, that her father drove about 5 hours to pick her up after the alleged assault.
We rode home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened.
But in a later interview with NBC News, her father said he could not corroborate her story, telling us, "I feel like I would remember that, and I don't." Jay-Z always denied any wrongdoing. The superstar, who has won 25 Grammys and is worth an estimated $2.5 billion, called the lawsuit a money grab, saying in a statement, the court must protect victims, of course, while with the same ethical responsibility, the courts must protect the innocent from being accused without a shred of evidence.
Chloe, Sean Diddy Combs also had been named in that suit, which is now dropped.
Yes, so Combs no longer faces this civil suit, but he faces dozens of others which have been filed against him.
Sure.
He was also charged with sex trafficking and racketeering in the fall. He pleaded not guilty to those charges, but he is behind bars awaiting his criminal trial, which is expected to start this May.
Chloe Milas, thank you so very much.
Thanks for watching.
All right, so that's it, man. Jay-Z taking home a win. Big congratulations to him. And again, I have to say, I told you so. This whole, nothing added up in this entire claim. It was weird from the start. Jane Doe already admitted to lying. The father said, I don't remember that happened. And even if you just do some basic research into what was going on in 2000 and even 2003, like some people were claiming, they said, oh, it could have been 2003. Stop the cap. No. It still didn't make sense. So congratulations to Jay-Z, much deserved. Him and his family can rest easy knowing that this specific, whatever you want to call it, it's not even a claim at this point. This specific legal action is done and over with. Let's actually go ahead and look into what was actually filed by the Busby law firm. And we can go ahead and boo Tony Busby. I know we've done it enough, but we're going to keep going. And all of y'all that were in the chats and the comments, y'all need to keep that same energy saying, oh, I'm on Jay-Z's payroll. Oh, I'm just, no, this was voluntarily dismissed and it cannot be filed again. So I want y'all to keep that same energy. We've gotten a notice of voluntary dismissal pursuant to Rule 41A1AI of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Pursuant to Rule 41 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, plaintiff Jane Doe, by and through her undersigned counsel, hereby gives notice that the above captioned action is voluntarily dismissed with prejudice. Counsel for plaintiff has discussed this matter with counsel for each defendant who acknowledge and consent to this submission by the Busby law firm. And also shout out to my guy, Dennis Byron. He gave some background on this. Dennis Byron was actually at many of the after parties in New York as a part of his professional job. And he knew and had said multiple times over and over that he knew for a fact that this didn't happen because he was aware of Jay-Z and celebrity. Well, we don't know who the celebrity was, but the female celebrity and Sean Diddy Combs were during this entire thing. So it couldn't have happened. And Dennis Byron said also the rumors about, oh, maybe there was some type of payout. Oh, maybe she was paid for her silence. No, it couldn't happen with New York law. With this being dismissed, if there was some type of settlement or something in writing, it would have to be made aware of. So shout out to Dennis Byron for that. Also, moving forward, I mentioned that Tony Busby, he's not out of the spotlight yet, because not only is he going to have to deal with the repercussions of the false allegations he brought up against Jay-Z, he still has to talk with Judge Torres, because if y'all remember, we went through the previous memorandum that was filed by Jay-Z where he was basically saying, hey, Judge, I don't even think Tony Busby was looking through all of these documents. He was signing things he didn't review, and I don't even know if he's allowed to practice here. So if we go back to one of Judge Torres's rulings, I want to read this for y'all, and it's something to keep in mind and see how this is going to go moving forward. Annalisa Torres, what does she say? By this letter dated on December 20th of 2024, the plaintiff's counsel, Anthony Busby, represented that he is admitted to practice in the Eastern District of New York and intends to apply for reciprocal admission to the Southern District. In his declaration dated on January 22nd, 2025, Busby stated that his application for reciprocal admission is forthcoming. According by February 14th, Busby shall file proof of admission on this docket, so ordered on January 28, 2025. Now, could one of the reasons be that this got dismissed is because Tony Busby didn't do what he was supposed to do and he actually did not file? If so, how's Judge Torres going to handle this? it'll be interesting to see moving forward, because this is just one of the many things Tony Busby is going to have to deal with moving forward. And I pray that Jay-Z holds Tony Busby accountable for this, because again, this could be any one of us. If you reach a certain level, if you get to a certain level at your company or at your job, this could happen to you. This could happen to you walking into a coffee shop. And I think this is going to hopefully send a message to lawyers out there who are trying to pursue this and move this way, that it's just not worth it. Either way, let me know what y'all think in the comments and in the chat. Shout out to the gang in here, man. Thank y'all for liking the video as well. Woo! And shout out to Jim R. I know Jim R was all over this thing. He's usually in the chat, but I know he's over there working on some other things too. This entire lawsuit was BS from the beginning. We knew it here. There were some people, some detractors who said, oh man, you're just, well, I don't want to use that term, but you're just on Jay-Z's side over here. No, we have to look at each one of these suits and each one of these claims individually. Just because Jay-Z may have done something else, which again, I don't know. I don't care. I just take it for what it's worth. Jay-Z may have done something here or there. I don't know. But when we look at this claim specifically, objectively, because people love to say I'm not objective, you could clearly see that there was so much to this that didn't make sense. The witch hunt is over. Absolutely. And I got the receipts too. Y'all are saying to expose her? Dang. Yes, and Tony Busby needs to be sued. It was a money grab. Expose her regardless of her condition. It's not about her anymore. It's about everybody who's been falsely accused. That's a great point, because as I said, it could happen to any one of us. Wrong place, wrong time. You never know. And think about this. Jay-Z, just because he's Jay-Z, had this lawsuit come up against him and his name dropped in this lawsuit that had nothing to do with him and wasn't even real. He had to pay his retainer for his lawyer or hire a lawyer. However, knowing Jay-Z, he's got lawyers on speed dial, right? Had to go through all this stuff. Imagine if that were you or me. I don't want to go through that. Even if I could afford it, I don't want to deal with that. Busby is a professional and he should have checked receipts. Is he a professional though?
Stop the cap.
I don't think Busby encouraged her. I don't think she should be exposed, to be honest. Well, she said this happened to me. Tony Busby just didn't pull her out of a crowd and say, hey, you look like somebody that was possibly assaulted by Diddy, Celebrity B, and Jay-Z. Come on over here and let's make up this lawsuit. No, she went on the interview. She sat there. She lied. She went through this whole process. She told her story to the other law firm. What was the AVA law firm? She told them, and then they referred her to Tony Busby. She has a huge part in this. I'll say 51%, to be honest. Maybe a little less than that. I still love the people who say that Jay-Z paid her off, even though that's literally why he went to court. Yeah, there's people that just want to see Jay-Z go down. For whatever reason, I don't know, but just because you don't like Jay-Z doesn't mean that everything people say about him is true. And I've said this over and over and over, and I even say the same thing about Diddy. As much as y'all don't like Diddy, and I don't agree with everything that he did with Cassie, I'm not going to look at every single lawsuit that drops and say, oh yeah, that definitely happened. I don't even need to read it. It's Diddy. No. Will the case dismissal prove to be helpful to Diddy and May? No. This doesn't do anything for Diddy. Diddy is it's not looking great for Diddy. I'll just say that. I'm glad you are keeping it real. So many other YouTube channels I won't air out are trying so hard to say he's still guilty. And is paying people off. They keep saying this was settled. It was not settled. If you want to say he paid them under the table, fine. You could say that about anything. And if you're going to go that far in the conspiracy, then I'll let them have it. But looking at it just from a purely legal standpoint, this was dismissed. It was dismissed with prejudice. And if there was a settlement in New York, it would have to be something that we would be able to know about. Yeah, and y'all are naming other people. I don't care about other people that are saying this and that. So you don't have to mention other people's names in here unless they're like a friend of a channel. If it's like the lead attorney or Anton Daniels or Cat Not Williams or even Mel, I'm not a lawyer, but fine. But there's other people that are just, no need to mention them. He sued him immediately after. Yeah, I'm waiting for the official documents for Jay-Z's retaliation to come out. He didn't sue him. He issued a statement, and we might go through this later, but this isn't an actual lawsuit. But we might go through that at some point. Good morning, everybody else that's in here. I still believe something happened to her. I just think she's a bit on the confused side. What? No, I don't believe anything she said. I'm sorry. I don't think anything happened to her. I think she's a liar because she is. So I'm sorry for whatever happened to her throughout her life, but I don't believe anything this woman says. She's a proven liar. She went through all this. She sat down with NBC. So whatever issues she has, she needs to have people around her who are going to help her get those fixed and keep it moving. I'm sorry, but she needs to be exposed. What if she tried it again? Exactly. So if something did happen to her, what if she says, oh yeah, actually, it was Joe Biden that did it. I remember I went to the White House one year right before the election. And, I just wanted to view the White House. I just wanted to get a tour of the White House. So I was walking through, and then Joe Biden poked his head out of the Oval Office and said, hey, come on over here, Jane Doe. You want to see the Oval Office? And then I was scarred for life. Nope, get this chick out of here. Get her some help. And I don't want this to happen to anybody again. Because again, I just think, even with these legal cases, people always want me to throw somebody under the bus, someone who's a defendant in a case, just because they feel a certain way about them. I believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. And I would hope I would hope y'all would do the same for me. And I hope a jury of my peers would believe the same thing as well, because you just never know. Jay-Z just because he was Diddy, or just because he was Jay-Z, and maybe he had some business he was doing with Diddy, this lawsuit came out and he went through this whole entire process. I don't know what he paid Alex Spiro, but I know I ain't got that. So it's a mess, man. I hate this. I'm sorry, but he needs to be exposed. What if she tried it again? No matter what she got on that horse and rode it, got bucked off. Now she needs to be exposed for the reality of her choices. I don't put anything past anyone. I like to see it play out in court. Well, it's over now. If she was paid off, Tony would be smug and doing interviews and giving comments. Tony's in trouble. He needs to shut his mouth. There was a bunch of people questioning the Cassie allegations until the video surfaced. Of course. And I was one of those, because I believe that he's innocent until proven guilty. And even in that situation with the video, although I'm not justifying it and what Diddy did was wrong, we don't know what happened before that. There's so much we don't know. So yeah, that whole Diddy Cassie thing is, I don't want to get into that. It's weird. Not yet anyway. There are a bunch of people questioning Cassie. Yep. Not to mention the folks that see she gets away scot-free, and the idea that it doesn't hurt to try. That's a great point. Well, if you feel like something happened, just go file a lawsuit. And hey, maybe Jay-Z, he won't be feeling it that day, and you and Tony Busby will get a multi-million-dollar check. Jay-Z could have settled this. And I told y'all before, I might have went, if it were me, I might have went to mediation and been like, man, just what do you want? to leave me alone because I don't have the time to deal with this. I don't want this coming out in the public. Amy says he may be innocent of this, but there is no way I believe he's innocent of everything. He dated Beyonce underage. He hung out with Diddy, etc. There is no way he didn't know what Diddy had going on. Oh, I agree 1000%, but that has nothing to do with this lawsuit. And again, just because Diddy was kicking Cassie up and down the hallway in the hotel doesn't mean he went outside and took a baseball bat and smashed somebody's car window. Man, there's a lot of people who hung out with Diddy who had no clue of what he was doing. I don't like the angle he hung out with Diddy. Yeah, that's... Jay-Z and Diddy were close, though. To Amy's point, Jay-Z and Diddy were very, very close. And I mean, I've seen people... I'm not even... Yeah. Diddy's not an idiot. Could he have turned a blind eye? Sure, but yeah, I don't know. Amy said, Classy Beats already told you you're 1000% guilty of being handsome and amazing. Thank you, Amy. So sweet. Let's see. And you wonder why you still have people being Foster accused of stuff, but after a case dropped, it had no sound evidence and still have people saying, I think something happened. I stay on this side of the law as much as possible. If these celebs pay, there will be more people trying to extort them. And this is a despicable allegation that Jay-Z wanted to clear his name. I definitely understand that. That's what Jim R was saying. He's an attorney. He was in the chat. He's saying, man, I wish more people would just hold out and actually fight this, especially if they know for a fact that the allegations are false. That's tough to say, though, when it's somebody's life at stake, you know. Jay-Z, in all fairness, met Beyonce when she was adult. I don't want to get in, whatever. I don't want to get into that today. As a pointer note, use your... Oh, okay, I got you. Maybe the payoff was done secretly to prevent others from trying to do the same. Whatever. I mean, y'all can come up with whatever conspiracy theories you want to. We're just going to look at it from the legal side. All right. Y'all know what time it is. Let's go ahead and get back into the ASAP Rocky trial. Let me update this headline. So we didn't get to review all of this on Friday. So we're going to go back, do a little bit of a rewind and see what John Lewin was talking about. So if y'all already saw this, I'm totally fine with spoiler alerts. Let me know what your thoughts are on his redirect, I guess you would call it. And I want to see what y'all think about this because we know John Lewin. I saw a little bit of it. This dude, man. This guy, John Lewin, is a whole mess. We'll get into it in a second. Shout out to Slim Life in the building with the 5 bomb showing love. Thank you so much, Slim Life. She said, how's this going? Hey, it's Monday. Hopefully y'all that got it are enjoying your extra day off, that 3-day weekend as well. Bruh, you have to stop saying Jay and Puff hung out together. Y'all don't know these folks. Jay-Z said it. Diddy said it in a legal document. What do you mean? What? They've been seen in public hanging out together. It's not that deep, bruh. It's not that deep. Like, it's okay. It's okay. They hung out together. I don't think there needs to be a whole, I don't even know why. I don't even know why I addressed that. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Thank you to Slim Life for being here and showing major support. Let's see what John Lewin's talking about from day 13. Let's go.
Mr. Lewin, are you ready? Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Floor is yours. Good afternoon, everybody. Over lunch, I had a nightmare that when I was going to come back up here, that Mr. Tacopina was only half done. I think, I'm not sure, but I believe I had a birthday and at least one grandchild during that closing. And I bring that up for a specific reason.
Oh, here we go already.
Do not confuse the length of that argument with the persuasiveness of it. What we kind of have gotten away from.
Here we go already.
So this is the case of People versus Rakeem Ayers. This is not People versus Mr. Efron. It's not People versus John Lewin. It's People versus Rakeem Ayers. And the reason that I point that out is because if you didn't know better and you listened to the closing, you would think that either Relly was on trial, maybe I was on trial, and we're not on trial. And I think it's important when you are listening and really going through these arguments that you understand what this case is about. And for that reason, I'd love to say that I'm going to be very brief up here.
Yeah, we wouldn't believe
and
you.
The reason I'm not going to be is that, unfortunately, I've got an obligation to make sure that I address the points that defense counsel made. Whether those points are relevant, whether those points are persuasive. I can tell you this, I won't be as long as Mr. Tacopina was, and I'm confident that you will get the case today, this afternoon. But that's where we are.
All right, let's see.
This is Randy's Donuts. This is Randy's Donuts. This is on the corner. You're looking at Randy's. This is in Inglewood, on the corner of basically Manchester and La Cienega. This is the exit from the 405. If you're coming, we're looking northbound.
Shout out to Randy's.
30 years ago, when I was a young deputy DA in Torrance, I used to drive from home, and I would have to take this route on the 405. And I would, every day, I would get off on the 405, and I would tell myself that if God wanted me to get a donut, He would make sure that the light that you can't see right here was red. And as you can see, God wanted me to have a lot of donuts. I ended up, most of the time, I stopped. But there came a time where it just wasn't good enough for me to take the chance on the light. So what I would do is, it's a really long straightaway, and you can see when you're getting off the freeway, you can see that light. So what I would do is literally, I would coast my car at 20 or 25 miles an hour, making sure that I hit the red, and then I could go in and I'd get that donut. And I bring this up because passing up that donut was extremely difficult for me. Very, very hard. And most days I wasn't able to do it. And I always thought that that's probably one of the hardest things that I would have to do. And then I became a trial lawyer. And then I started trying cases. And then I started trying serious cases.
What's he talking about?
And I can tell you that what it takes to pass up that donut is nothing compared to what it's like when I have to sit here during a closing argument, and the defense is up, and I have to listen. And I want to get up and I want to scream, I want to yell. I can't do it. I try to do different things, try to focus on something else, try to go to a little happy place. It's really, really hard. It's especially hard.
He said he tries to go to his happy place.
What?
So now he's saying he's a victim. John Lewin is a victim, y'all. Ah, this is tough. We're only three minutes in. Oh God. You're not relatable, John. Please don't take this angle. Good God.
It's really, really hard. It's especially hard when, as in this case, Mr. Tacopina makes an argument. And I want to be clear about something. I'm going to attack the arguments that Mr. Tacopina made. Because that's what lawyers do. That's what's fair. I'm going to attack the arguments that he made. I'm going to attack the case that the defense put on. I'm not going to attack Mr. Tacopina personally. I'm not going to cast aspersions on evidence that he put on. In the end, witnesses, we don't vouch for our witnesses, ladies and gentlemen. What that means is that we put on witnesses, and those witnesses testify to what they're going to testify to. So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to very critically point out what this case is about and what it isn't about. And kind of before I get there, I want to talk a little bit about your role as jurors. So you 16 people, we started in what year? And I know many of you, probably most, maybe all of you, none of you wanted to be here. Okay? And I get it. It's understandable. But you were chosen. It wasn't simply magic that you ended up as jurors. Both sides chose you. And honestly, and one of the few things Mr. Tappan and I probably agree on is that in our country, it's an incredible honor to be able to be a juror, because in other countries, we don't have jury trials. We don't have any system of justice. But you were selected, and it literally is an honor. But along with that honor comes a duty and a responsibility. And I'm not going to understate it. I'm not going to pretend it's anything other than it's not. I will tell you, Mr. Kozlenik and I, we have done our duty, our responsibility in putting on this case. We have given you a case, or we have proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. It's going to end up going into your hands, and I'm going to explain to you what the evidence demonstrates and what the verdict in the case should be.
He said they proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Are y'all buying that? Let me know in the comments and in the chat. Are y'all buying that they've proven the state, the prosecutors, John Lewin, Mr. Bradley, whose last name I cannot pronounce, have they done their job? Let me know.
Some of you might be saying, wait a minute, I don't understand why we had a trial. Because let's face it, no matter how much the defense wants to talk about how this is all about Relly's credibility, it isn't. It's on video. What's amazing about this case is how little in the end Relly's credibility or anything that matters in the case is really an issue. Now, it certainly could have been an issue. There could have been a defense in this case. There could have been, where the defense put on evidence and they said, hey, listen, Relly, you can't see it, but Relly, when he came, had a weapon. And he said, I'm going to kill you. And the defendant at that point in time pulled a gun to defend himself. And the situation ended and Relly followed. And he threatened again, and he pulled out another gun. And that would have been difficult for us to counter, not because it's true, but because the evidence that you would have been given would have been much more problematic, much more difficult. That's not the defense they chose. The defense they chose, and I'm going to get into this in a little more time and more detail, but I want to make sure you all understand it right off the bat. This case comes down to one issue and one issue only. They are saying it's a prop gun. If it's a prop gun, he is absolutely not guilty of the charges. Not because he didn't pull it, not because he didn't fire it, but because under the law, if it's not a real firearm, it's not a violation of Penal Code Section 245, and it's not the personal use of a firearm. Now, here's what's interesting. Now, again, I'm going to explain this in more detail.
Here we go.
Mr. Pina got up here. He says, absolutely. Hey, listen, he did not have a real gun. It's a prop gun. But it's still self-defense. That's not true. If it is a prop gun, there is no self-defense. And the only way you can get to self-defense in this case is you have to find, one, that it was a real gun, which it clearly was a real gun. There's no question there. It was a real gun. The prop gun is a figment of the defense and the witnesses who testified to it. You have to find that not only is it a real gun and that it was fired, but that the defendant was defending other individuals or himself, and that the force that he used was necessary. And ladies and gentlemen,
if he feared for, it's about imminent danger. And here's the thing, self-defense has nothing to do with it being a prop gun or a real gun. Because can't you use a baseball bat and it be self-defense? And they're saying, okay, well, if you think it's a real gun, it could be self-defense. I don't get John's point here. But we'll let him cook, I guess.
He wasn't defending anybody else.
Putting greens in the bathtub like Kamala.
It's a sad situation, and I'm going to confront this head on. It would be easy for you all as jurors to say, wait a minute, I don't get it. This guy has got everything. He has everything. He's successful. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got 2 children who were here. And some of you might be saying, gosh, you know what? Why would he risk that? And
that's a good question.
Very good question. It's just not a question that is for you to consider. Because in the end, the issue is not why did he risk it? Why did he do what he did? Because what the evidence shows is that is what he did. This is also not, let me repeat, not about Relly and his civil suit. And let's talk about that for a moment. And let's talk about exactly what we are dealing with here. I want to move forward here. As I'm talking, again, some of you might say, hey, listen, Mr. Lewin, we've been listening to this case. Why are you even up here arguing? We get it. If I were in charge of the court system, which I'm not, I would make an adjustment. And what would happen is there would be a scoreboard right on top of between where juror number 4 and juror number 5 is. And I could look up and I could see, oh, okay, we're up 42-0. I can take a knee. I can run the clock out.
What is he talking about?
But I don't have a scoreboard. I have no idea what you 12 jurors are thinking. I have no idea. I have no idea if some of the crazy arguments by the defense, gosh, maybe somebody believes them. One of the most difficult, frustrating things that can happen is, and I try not to do this, but I will see jurors taking notes, writing things down at certain points where I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why are they writing that? That doesn't make any sense. Of course, I don't know what you're writing. I have no idea.
All right, if I'm sitting on this jury, this guy sounds like a psychopath. What is happening? I don't know what you're thinking. I have impulse control. I like to buy donuts. Sometimes I'm sitting here and I just can't control myself. I want to give him a chance, man, and be objective, but just listen to this as a regular person. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? You want a scoreboard and you want to know what we're thinking? Can you just do your job, maybe? What a weirdo, man. Dang.
You could be writing down a point.
This is not relatable.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
This is not relatable at all.
But here's what I do know. I've got an obligation to make sure that I address everything that the defense has brought up. Good points, bad points, irrelevant points, nonsensical points. I have to address it all because I don't know where each one of you are at. And the reason is pretty simple. There is no way that I can ask you 12 jurors to do your job if I haven't done mine. So
we're waiting.
That's kind of the background of where we find ourselves.
We're waiting for that to happen.
All right, let's talk for a second about the defense closing argument, and I think it's important. So what they have done, and listen, I get it. Relly, in a lot of ways, was a very problematic victim. Why is he problematic? Well, one, in a lot of ways, he's not very sympathetic. And I'm not here to get you to like Relly, to get you to say, you know what, Relly deserves $30 million. Because unlike what Mr. Takapina said, you're not here to decide that. You are not here. I'm not Relly's lawyer, and you're not the jury who's going to decide what damages he's going to get. Evidence has shown he has a civil suit. You're aware of that. I'm not telling you anything that's not a part of the evidence. And if that civil suit goes to trial, as you all know, there will be a jury that will decide what, if anything, he gets. That is not U12.
Not getting anything.
I don't mean to shortchange you alternates. Being alternates are really, I'm not going to lie, it's a crummy job. You get to sit through everything, and then you don't get to vote. I think I said this on voir dire. I would have held my hand up and said I cannot be an alternate. I can't do it. I need to be able to vote. So when I say U12, I really mean U16. You never know who is going to end up on our jury. But what is important to keep in mind is that you're not here representing Relly. But you know what I do want to explain? I want to explain for a second what happened with Relly and who he is and what he's been through. And I think it's really important, and this kind of goes to what the defense is in this case. This is a picture that if you look at it, it's very blurry, okay? You can't see what's going on. Why is that? Because what the defense wants to do is they want to zoom up so close on every irrelevant fact that you forget why we're even here. And what's an example of that? I'll tell you right now. Mr. Acapina spent time pointing out the fact that Relly was not honest about buying a property in Miami. Now you need to ask yourselves, what does his property in Miami have to do with what happened on November 6th? Nothing. But he would say, well, but wait a minute. If Relly is not being truthful about that, you don't have to believe about anything. I'm going to get to why that is not what the instructions actually direct you to do. But I want to do something more. I want to do something better. I want to explain to you from the evidence why Relly was up there doing what he did. So let's first talk about the fact that Mr. Acapina spent a lot of time talking about, hey, the defendant, he just sat there, he was dignified, he didn't make any fuss, etc. That's all true. That doesn't mean anything. The defendant is an extremely powerful individual. His wife is even more powerful. Relly found himself in a situation where he was on the wrong side of that power divide. And by the way, it doesn't matter why he got there, but you know why. You heard it. There was a disagreement about ASAP Josh and about what happened to him and what was going to be paid for and what wasn't. And what's important is that Relly and the defendant had a disagreement about it. That's what happened. And because of that disagreement, and because of ego, this is what happened. Now, some of you might be saying to yourself, well, wait a minute. I mean, in the end, what really happened in this case? Okay, it wasn't a prop gun, obviously. The evidence demonstrates, and by the way, we don't have to prove that
there's
Relly
no
got
evidence.
shot.
Come on, John, you were doing good.
The reasonable inference from the evidence is that he's got a wound on his hand that he didn't have beforehand. I'm going to address this again, but every time you hear the defense say, where was the witness to testify to that? You need to remember something. They are the ones that are arguing that this was a prop gun. They are the ones that are arguing that Relly didn't actually sustain these injuries from a gunshot. They are the ones arguing that casings would not have been found. You got how many lawyers over there? How many people? There was a point in time during jury selection where they almost had a football huddle. There were like 8 or 9 of them over there. Do you think for one moment, 1 millisecond, that if those individuals had something positive to say to help the defendant, that they would have called those individuals? If, for instance, Relly's injuries could not have been caused by a graze wound, they would have called a witness. So what you're left with is, Relly didn't have that wound when it started. He testified that he felt heat going through his hands instantly. So the idea that, well, it's a minor wound.
This is not good.
But we're
This was he was doing so good too. He was bringing me back. He was reeling back in, and then he let me go again. Because now you're saying, hey, we're not gonna question Relly, because it's not about questioning Relly. It's about the facts. And they want you to believe this, and we want you to believe this. The problem with that, sir, Mr. Lewin, is that you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that's what happened. And sir, you have not done that. They don't have to prove that it was a prop gun. They don't have to prove that Relly didn't scrape his hands or Relly didn't get shot. They don't have to prove that. You have to prove that it did happen. And guess what? You didn't call any experts. You don't have the video of Relly returning to the scene. You don't have the gun. It's reasonable doubt, my guy. And I thought y'all were supposed to be better than this.
Well, it's a minor wound, and that's true. But we're not here to talk about the consequences. I want to really point out something that's really important. This was 10 p.m. on a busy Saturday night in the middle of Hollywood. And what happened? And you know this. Well, I'm going to go through this evidence at length. But the short story is that the defendant, because he was angry, because of ego, because of the fact that he is who he is, he decided that he was going to have a confrontation with Relly. That's what happened. We'll go through the video. It's very clear. The defendant goes there with a gun. He's got 2 guys with him. He grabs Relly. He initiated this incident. And what I don't think is being addressed enough, and Relly talked about it, is that, remember, Relly has no idea, before this is happening, he doesn't think it's this severe of an issue. They've known each other half their lives. They understand they're upset with each other, that's clear. You have to text back and forth. But at that moment, and I'm not talking about when the defendant fires a gun, I'm talking about the parking garage. When the defendant pulls out the gun, Relly's entire future flashes before his eyes. And do you know what that future is? He's done. It's over. What makes it over? Well, he understands that if the defendant is upset with him enough to pull a gun on him, that he's going to ruin him. As he told you, that means no more artists will sign with him. That means record deals will go away. He's done. And he doesn't know this is coming. He doesn't have time to contemplate it. And what's his response? It's shock and it's anger. And it's not really thinking about what is smart. The argument Mr. Tacopina makes is, well, who would go after somebody who's pulled a gun on them? Well, that's not quite a fair argument, because it's not somebody who's pulled a gun on them. It's someone that was a close friend. And Relly told you he really wasn't thinking about the consequences. He was angry. He also told you that, you know what? Rocky had pulled a gun on him, and he put it back. So he realized at that point, his life as he knew it is over. By the way, he was right. So we're not here to talk about what damages Relly should get, what damages he shouldn't get. But let's remember something. That man shot him. That man took away the career that he had. I don't know what that's worth. 30 million sounds a bit excessive to me, but I'm not the lawyer in that trial, and you're not the jury. So that will be hashed out, that will be debated, and that will be eventually decided upon. But there's no question that in that moment, he realized that he was losing something very, very important, very precious. And so what does he do? He follows, and we have the second incident. Now, what started the second incident? We'll never know. We know that Relly is yelling at him. Relly is saying very unkind things. And we know there's no question the defendant is proud. Okay? And I'm going to give you another word, because I'm not going to hide from it. He's entitled. All right? Everybody runs around. He is a big, important man, and everybody serves him. This is just a small example, but it's important. The witnesses who came in are dependent upon him financially. They're dependent upon
life
him
flashed before his eyes.
And what happened in the middle of a trial with 12E on the stand? 12E's asked a question. Has anyone ever seen or heard a defendant yell out to a witness in front of the jury, "Don't answer that"? That's what happens when you have a lot of power. And no one has ever told you, you know what? You can't do that. So why did the defendant, why did he take out the gun and fire those shots? I don't know. But you don't have to figure that out either. Because in the end, and I covered this in jury selection, I asked each one of you.
They do have to figure that out.
Mr. Prezemek and I, if we prove to you
what
happened in this case, beyond a reasonable doubt, and you don't understand why it happened, it still happened. But that's not where the story ends. Because that act, and the first act's important too, when he pulls the gun out,
he's not being truthful.
Video, but it's very clear that that incident ends because a couple of people walk by. That's very clear. There are witnesses. One of the witnesses, I think 12, I believe, even mentioned, yeah, there's people walking by, but that's not what ended it. Well, you can see where they are, and you can see that right after, that's when he puts the gun back. When they get to the second scene, something happens. And one of the things that makes no sense in the defense argument, zero sense, is that they keep talking about the timing of the shots. Okay? It's not when the first shot was fired, and you're going to see it. You can see, you can't tell what it is, but you can see Rocky make a movement behind his back and pull out a firearm. Pull out, you can't tell what it is, but he's going to pull that item out, and at that point in time, he's going to start advancing to where Relly and Ills are. That is what Relly responds to, is that firearm being pulled out. Yes, he grabs Ills before the first shot is fired because he's trying to avoid getting shot. So again, the timing of which shot it is it 1 second before or after, that's an irrelevancy. It doesn't matter. It's not even the defense theory.
So he's saying he saw the gun and then he started to use Ills as a shield. Is that what y'all saw? Let me know in the comments. That's not what I'm seeing. That's not how I'm seeing it. It does not look like he's trying to protect himself. It looks like he's trying to beat the shit out of somebody. Let me know.
And the other thing that is really, really important, and again,
the video was bad.
It.
It's hard to see, so I don't know.
That man decided that his ego and his vendetta and his anger at Relly was important enough that he was going to risk not only Relly's life or Ill's life, but he was going to fire 2 shots from a 9mm firearm in the middle of Hollywood. Now, I don't have to tell you, because you all know it's common sense. Bullets travel until they hit something. That's what happens. They're fired at very, very high velocity. They're coming out at an incredible speed. And they travel until they hit something. Sometimes what they hit is the ground. And they ricochet. Sometimes what they hit is a car. Sometimes what they hit is the person they're aimed at. And sometimes some tourist walking down Hollywood Boulevard with her family all of a sudden drops dead because they've been shot in the head by a bullet that somebody selfishly fired to settle a childish dispute.
Dang.
That's what he did. That's the conduct in this case. It's not about what injury Relly received. It's not about how much money he's going to sue for. Those are not in the jury instructions. You're not going to see a jury instruction on, quote, extortion.
Oh, he's cooking
because that's not
right
what
now.
you're here to decide. That's what happened in this case. That man decided, you know what? I'm angry, and I'm going to show him.
Yo, hey, listen. That's a good point. He's using the fear right now. Say, hey, you guys want to be walking down the street one day because 2 blocks down, 2 guys are having a dispute. One fires a gun in the air and you or somebody you love gets hit. Woo! I don't know. The jury might have felt that one. Dang.
The defense argument,
he's using fear.
As I listened, it was almost like Mr. Tacopina took off in a plane with no flight plan, and he flew around in circles. Circle after circle after circle. And eventually, he kind of just ran out of gas and kind of just crashed the plane. There wasn't much direction. There wasn't much focus. And there wasn't an emphasis on the actual facts you're here to decide. Now listen, he's got a tough case. In opening statement, my partner got up here and he told me this is a simple case. It is a simple case. I'm going to tell you.
It's not.
This case could and easily could be a 5-minute verdict. And here's why. Because once you decide that this was not a prop gun, and ladies and gentlemen, it's not a prop gun. I'm going to go through all the reasons. And once you decide
don't do that, please.
This case is done. It's over. Because that's the defense in the case. Not, as Mr. Tacopina tried to argue, well, it's self-defense. If you notice, Mr. Tacopina didn't actually reach the next step. He talked about self-defense, but he never explained to you, for it to be self-defense, you have to find that it was a real gun. That's what you have to find. If you have a question about that, you ask the court.
He did say that.
You have to find, to get to self-defense, that it was a real gun. And their defense in this case was, it was a prop gun. That's the issue in this case. Was it a prop gun or was it not? If you find it's a prop gun, all I can say is, you know what? You really need to examine why you're getting there. And I'm going to bring up something that's really important. The defendant is a celebrity. His wife's an even bigger celebrity. Many of you know who they are. They brought in 2 adorable children yesterday for closing argument.
All right, that's the second
now, they
time.
haven't been here at any other time.
You get one more time, John.
And you have to ask yourselves, those kids have a right to be there. Why children that age would be here in a situation like this, don't know. But you have to ask.
What? Nah, don't do that. Don't do. Why is his family here supporting him? Come on, dude. That's just garbage. Rihanna's presence there alone would be enough. She doesn't need to bring the kids there. She's Rihanna. She could be there all by herself and the whole world's going to be reporting it. They don't care about those kids. Garbage. Absolute
ask yourself,
trash.
Am I going to let my feelings of not wanting to convict the defendant? And Mr. Tacopina made it very clear. You notice
he sounds desperate, man.
He literally brought up Rihanna. He brought up the defendant's family. And he basically was saying, hey, listen, if you convict him, it's going to be very difficult on the family.
He basically said that?
That is not something you are allowed to consider. So I'm not telling you I don't think you should consider it. You are not allowed to consider it. If you think you are allowed to consider it, ask the question to the judge when you go back. You can send out notes. You can ask questions. You are not allowed to consider how this might affect Rihanna or his kids.
The jury's not stupid, man.
We are all in the world responsible for what we do. And I'm going to add something else, too. There was testimony from ASAP Lou. And ASAP Lou, even though it wasn't a question, ASAP Lou wanted to get in front of you, I think 2 times at a minimum.
I'm going to let him finish. But this is a bad theme with both of these prosecutors. They keep skipping over 12's testimony, which was clearly the best testimony throughout this trial. And there's a reason. Because they had a very clear, credible story that lined up with what we were seeing. Relly, on the other hand, not so much. So, I don't know. Maybe he'll get into it more a little bit later. But I find that interesting they go to Lou.
The defendant is looking at whatever Judge Arnold decides he's going to give him. So, you are not allowed, by the way, to consider, oh my gosh, if I convict, you get 24 years. You're not allowed to consider, even if that was true. But in the end, Judge Arnold will decide what the sentence in this case is. So if any of you go back there and say, well, you know what, I just don't think that this crime, I'm just not comfortable with 24 years, you can't do that. If one of the rest of you does it, guys, it's misconduct. You can't do it. You got to stop yourself. You got to stop the person next to you.
He wants them to snitch like Miss Love said. Or Miss Hilton said. Somebody tries to do that, tell on him.
All right. You've got to base your decision on this case on the facts that have been proved from the evidence. Now, this is really important. The instruction does not say on the facts that have been proved from the people's evidence. That is hugely important in this case. There is no question whatsoever that our case got immeasurably stronger because the defense chose to put on a case. No question. Even if some of you were saying to yourselves, you know what, I don't think based on just what the prosecution put on that I would have convicted. And let's think about that for a second. Until the defense case, now they mentioned in the opening, but remember, opening is not evidence. Until the defense case, we don't know what the defense is. It could have been self-defense. It could have been any number of things. It wasn't. They chose to put on a defense. They didn't have to. You remember what here I asked you all. Are you going to give any points to the defense if they choose to put on a defense in their case where they don't have to? Or are you going to look at their evidence as critically, as importantly, as you do for our evidence? You all said you would do it. They elected to put on a defense that killed their case. It destroyed it. And I'll go through it. It started with Wally. The best evidence from the victim. This is probably the second thing I agree with Mr. Tacopina. Mr. Tacopina put on Wally to impeach the defendant, to impeach the victim on an issue of whether it was his voice. And obviously, it was Relly's voice. And obviously, he was uncooperative. But let's take a step back and ask ourselves, why was Relly uncooperative in this case?
Oh. Obviously, our key witness lied on the stand. He's doing whatever he can to make sure his civil lawsuit goes through. I mean, don't worry about that. Let's talk about Wally.
What?
Okay.
Relly told you, and you saw evidence of it. In April of 2022,
this
when
guy
it came out that Relly was the individual who reported the defendant to the police, he's facing death threats. His family is facing death threats.
Oh, poor guy.
So he is up there not wanting to answer any question about his family. He doesn't even want to give his girlfriend's name. He doesn't want to say where he lives. He doesn't want to identify anything about
we know who his girlfriend is.
You got to ask yourselves, first of all, is it understandable why he didn't want to answer those questions? Of course it is. You have to ask yourselves, Mr. Tacopina repeatedly asked those questions. Listen, that's his right as a lawyer. He can certainly do that. But it was very clear that the result of that, if not the intention, was to get Relly upset, to get him agitated, and to shut him down. And that's what happened. But even more importantly, none of those questions, none of those answers matter. And what's amazing is the defense, their witness, they put on the evidence from Wally, which is some of the most crucial evidence in the case. And again, I'm going to get there. So the defense had no obligation to put on a case. They could have done nothing. But do not be mistaken. Some jurors go back and they say, you know what? Well, because if I only look at the people's case, they haven't proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's why this says prove from the evidence, not prove from the people's evidence, all of the evidence in the case.
Okay, well, we're still not with you, man.
We've got a duty, and we don't hide behind it at all. We have a duty to prove the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And by the way, it's interesting. Mr. Tacopina keeps talking about, quote, reasonable doubts. There's no such thing as reasonable doubts. They are not individual pieces. Reasonable doubt is an overall view from all of the evidence. So when he said, well, listen, if you have a reasonable doubt about Relly's credibility, then that means it's a not guilty. That's not true at all. The question is, when you look at all of the evidence, if you find that Relly's credibility is really material, if you find that there isn't other evidence that overcomes it, does the overall collection of the evidence cause you to have a reasonable doubt? There is no such thing as reasonable doubts. They are not like pieces of a cookie where you pick up one and go, oh, here's a reasonable doubt. It's not how it works. And you got the instruction that shows it. We have to prove every element of the crime's charged. No question. That's our burden.
Okay.
This is really important. Not every element in every case is in dispute or reasonably in dispute. So what does that mean? So for instance, we would have had to prove that it was the defendant who was at the scene. That's our burden. But the defense has already conceded that. We would have had to prove that the defendant had a gun. They've already conceded he had a gun. They say it's prop gun. We would have had to concede, we would have had to prove, that the defendant assaulted Relly with the gun. Well, they've conceded that. They just say it was a prop gun. We don't have to prove whatsoever that the defendant shot Relly, although that's what the evidence demonstrates. So very little in this case is in dispute, and that is hugely important. So let's talk about the relevant evidence in this case. So the day before the shooting, November 5th, 2021, Relly's in a car with Bari. I got to talk about Bari for a second, ASAP Bari. The defense is saying, well, why didn't you bring Bari in to us? Bari is the guy, if you remember, who posted, who is calling Relly a rat or a snitch. I can't remember which it is right now. The people's position is that Bari is not credible. If the defense wanted to bring him in, if they thought that he had evidence to add to their case, they would have brought him in. They flew in a guy from France, okay? Let's just take a step back. They flew in an individual from France at tremendous expense on almost no notice. And they flew him in because they wanted to prove that that was Relly's voice on the tapes. Now, one has to ask themselves, did they listen to the tapes? Because the tapes are some of the best evidence we have in this case. And you know that they only played for you a little snippet.
No, here we go.
The whole first part of that call, uninterrupted. I'm not going to give a snippet. So
uninterrupted. Let's see.
Before the shooting, There's an issue between the two of them. Okay? The defendant is upset with Relly. That's not a dispute. He's upset with him. I have no idea whether Relly was right about this dispute or the defendant was right about the dispute. But here's what I know for sure. It does not matter. It's not an issue for you to even consider. If let's assume that Relly paid for every part of ASAP Josh's funeral. Okay? The most expensive funeral in the history of mankind. He paid $20 million for the funeral. Let's assume that happened. It doesn't change the fact that he can't assault him with a firearm. I don't know. We have no idea who was right on this. But it's very clear it doesn't matter. But what's important is there is a dispute. And by the way, if that call did not take place, do you believe for a second that they would not have brought ASAP Bari in? And what do you think would have been the response for the defense if we would have brought ASAP Bari in, and ASAP Bari would have lied the same way that 12 lied, and Wally lied, and ASAP Lou lied? So he's his close friend. If that guy was going to help him...
No. He can't do this. Oh, this point is crazy. This point is crazy, man. So he's saying... he's using the fact that his key witness said something on phone calls that his key witness lied about to prove that the other witnesses lied. What? Is that how?
They would have called him. And they have the power of the subpoena just like we do. And in fact, he's the defendant's friend. They know where he is. They're able to access him. So the fact that he's not here, do not get caught up in that game.
Let's talk about 12's testimony.
Again, the relevance of this is simply that they had a dispute the day before. And the defendant, who is clearly a proud individual, got embarrassed by the fact that Relly is hearing him talking about him behind his back. Which, let's face it, it's not very manly, okay? It's just not. And it's clear that the defendant is embarrassed by this. He's embarrassed by the fact that Relly knows he is talking about him behind his back. And Relly doesn't like it, clearly. So, this is the day before the shooting. You can see what's going on. I'm not going to repeat the language. This is what we have. By the way, at this point in time, this is a stupid little incident, okay? The man's a multi-millionaire. Why on earth is he going to take it to the level that he took it? I don't know, but that's exactly what he did.
This is crazy.
So what happens? Well, the day of the shooting, we know that Relly is receiving a bunch of calls from the defendant, from Ills, and from 12. And if you don't think that Ills and 12 know what's going on, I got a bridge to sell you, okay? If you think, as the defense argued, that those were credible witnesses, Relly was angry and he was hostile. They weren't angry or hostile. They were just liars.
What?
Start to finish. So what happens? Well, we know shortly before the shooting, let's get to it, stop ducking my calls. Now, by the way, Relly says, hey, listen, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. And when you look at it, it looks like they're going to have a disagreement. But this is really important. Relly can kick the defendant's ass all day, okay? That's clear. But if Relly does that, he loses his life. He doesn't have any interest in doing that. He knows it, the defendant knows it, everybody knows it. Even those lying witnesses, 12 and Lou, eventually had to concede that the defendant has a lot of power in the industry.
Why does he keep talking about lying witnesses? Every time. Hey, man, if I'm on this jury and I think about him saying lying witness, the first person that comes to my mind is the first witness, which was Relly. He keeps saying lying witness, lying witness. This is a bad move. A bad move because they're admitting several times. He said, Relly said that wasn't him on the phone call. Let's be real. It was him. What? How are you calling these other witnesses liars? And you just stood there and admitted and are going to use evidence that proves your witness was lying. Okay, I'm gonna let it play, y'all. I'm sorry.
Industry where Relly works, the industry that he is dependent upon for his livelihood.
I'm gonna let it play.
So he's got not only no motivation for getting into a fight with the defendant, he can't do it.
Where are the
He's
text
got to
messages
sit back
before
and
that?
take
He
whatever he's
deleted
gonna
them.
take. Because he's power. That's who he is. He's got power. There's Rocky and there's Relly. Rocky knows it and Relly knows it. That's just the facts of life. So what happens? We have this incident. Now, thank God we have video in this case. Okay? Because without video, we all be in trouble. This video is very clear. And when Relly is walking, there's a couple things you want to consider. I'm going to get to this again. The idea that the defendant is bringing a gun to this meeting makes no sense at all. He's got two guys with him. He's not afraid of Relly. Relly's not looking for a fight. And you're going to see that the first action is the defendant grabbing Relly. That's what you're going to see as they're walking.
That's not true.
This is slowed down so you can see. So what you saw, the defendant grabs his arm. Now the defendant is pushing him forward. Relly is holding him back. Now this is really important.
That's not what happened.
Stop it for a minute, please. Come on, stop it for a minute.
That's not what happened.
Really,
why is he
now
showing this? He has it.
So what you saw, the defendant grabs his arm.
Rocky has his hands down. You can clearly see his hands are down.
You see?
Why do they keep saying this? Look.
So what you saw, the defendant grabs his arm. Now the defendant is pushing him forward. Relly is
How did he grab his arm if Relly's arm was extended?
holding him back. Now this is really important.
Oh, man.
Stop it for a minute, please. Do you mind stopping it for a minute? So this is really important. Some stuff in the trial is almost funny. I would ask 12, so what was the weather like of that night? Man, it's cold. And Relly, he's huge. He's got muscles all over his body. They made Relly out to be the Hulk. They made that happen because that's the narrative they wanted to create. But the problem is if you watch, Relly clearly is stronger than Rocky is. He's stronger than Ills is. Yet he's letting Rocky push him back. If he had wanted to, he had his hand available to punch Rocky. He didn't do it. Probably not because he didn't want to. Because he's a grown man who understands that if he does that, it's over. He's got no career. He's done. What he doesn't understand is that in the next moment, Rocky's going to take out a gun, and Relly is going to realize, oh my God, it's over anyway. Please play it. Stop it. Stop. I don't know if you remember, but when I had 12 on cross-examination, and he is saying that he's trying to pull the Relly off of Rocky. And I think this same image, and I'm asking him, well, wait a minute, how are you trying to pull Relly off of Rocky when you're in the middle? You're trying to keep Rocky off of Relly. No, I'm not in the middle. Of course he's in the middle. Keep playing it. And now watch the gun. Stop. It is true, we do not see the gun come out. But we know from before that the gun was not in Rocky's hand because we saw his hand before. Now, if you remember, what was 12's version of how the gun came out? I mean, guys, I'm not making this up. He said that Relly lifts Rocky off the ground. His pants fall down, and Relly reaches back to pull his pants up and happens to end up with the gun and what looks like his finger on the trigger. That is more absurd than, again, the tornado example with Bill. It's absurd. It insults your intelligence. And the only value that it has is if you are going to try to find a way to let this man get away with what he's done. And this goes back to what your duty is. You're here to call balls and strikes. What happens to Rocky is not your responsibility. Not whatsoever. Your responsibility is determining what happened. It's almost like what an umpire does, okay? When an umpire calls a strike or calls a ball, he doesn't own what happens in the game. The players decide the game. He's just making the calls according to the rules. Do not be fooled into the idea that, quote, Rocky's life is in your hands. Rocky's life is not in your hands. The determination of what Rocky did is. And what happens from there, that's on him, and that's up to the judge. So what happens? So he's got the gun out. Continue to play, please. Stop. So if he was trying to put the gun back, why is the gun now from behind him to in front of him? So they're going to say, well, you don't see what he does with the gun. Well, if his gun fell out accidentally, why doesn't he put it back? Well, it's because it didn't fall out accidentally. He pulled it out, and now he's going to assault Relly with it. And the fact that you don't see the assault because of the cameras, ask yourselves, logically, he took the gun out. He switched hands. The gun is now in front of him. What's he doing with the gun? He's doing exactly what Relly said he was doing with it. And by the way, nobody said that the defendant tried to murder Relly, intended to murder Relly. You're not charged with that. So the gun comes out. Continue to play. Stop. Okay, now, if you notice, he's about to put the gun back. And you're going to see the people crossing because, keep playing. So the gun went back because you see the people that are on top? They're walking from the direction where Rocky just was. Now, why Rocky put that gun away, we're never going to know. I can't prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt why he put the gun away. No one can. I can tell you that the evidence suggests, clearly, it's undisputed, there's a couple of people walking right by. It's in the middle of Hollywood, and Rocky's a pretty famous person, and if he was planning on shooting the gun at that point in time, that would really seem to be an ill-advised place to do it. You have to ask yourself, do you think it's a coincidence that when Rocky ends up actually shooting the gun, that the gun is shot in a place where Rocky reasonably doesn't believe anybody's watching him? He doesn't know about the cameras. He knows there's a crowd of people here. So this is how the first incident ends. Okay? This is how it ends. So, when we're looking at this, that's count one. That's the assault with a firearm. That's the personal use of the firearm. We don't have to prove any more than what you've just seen. Now, we do have to prove that it's a real gun. And here's what's interesting. Why are we unable to determine definitively? We certainly have strong evidence that it's a real gun based on what happens in the next scene. But who is in control of that gun? And let's think about what the argument is. They're saying that's a prop gun. Where's the prop gun? How are we supposed to prove that it's not a prop gun when they've got the gun and they got rid of it? It's impossible. There's no way for us to do anything more than what we've done. So what happens at the next scene? Part two of this. Now this is going to be important because what you're going to see here is you're going to see that the incident starts before Relly ever grabs Ills. By the way, Ills is the guy he likes. He doesn't like 12. So you want to just ask yourself for a second. He never tells anybody, hey, Ills had a gun, Ills had a knife.
Ills is the guy he likes.
Ills. He's not assaulting Ills. He's not punching him. He's not doing anything to Ills. He's using Ills as a shield, just like he's going to say. But let's look up to the top left.
Ills is the guy he likes.
Okay. So here we go.
This is
Back up
crazy.
again. Start this one over. So when you're watching this, what you're going to see is not as the defense described, that Relly grabs Ills and then Rocky defends him. What you're going to see is Rocky is going to reach behind and then he's going to advance towards Relly. That is clearly when Relly sees a firearm, and that's when he ends up grabbing Ills. So the idea that, well, the gunshot doesn't happen until after he grabs Ills, it doesn't matter. Relly's responding to the fact that Rocky's pulled a gun on him for the second time. And by the way, this is a lot scarier than the first time, because now they're by themselves, and clearly Relly is concerned he's about to get shot. Now, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to address it, but this doesn't even begin to cover the idea that their defense is not just this was a prop gun, which is absurd. It's an absurd defense. Their defense is it's a prop gun, and Relly knew it was a prop gun. And even though Relly knew it was a prop gun, Rocky pulled it on him to scare him, even though, by their own admission, he knows it's fake. And you can see Relly running around, and you can see what 12 does, and you can see what Rocky does, and no one is acting like it's a prop gun because it isn't. So let's watch it. Boom, guns out.
Why aren't they zooming in?
By the way, at one point in time, one of the witnesses, I think it was 12, said that the defendant fired a warning shot. You don't fire a warning shot with a prop gun, it doesn't fire anything. Also, you can see that on that
That's
shot,
a dumb argument.
the defendant has the gun out, facing forward, appearing to target Relly. And by the way, he moves into a better position in between the shots. And the only reasonable conclusion you can reach from that is that he is trying to get a line of fire onto Relly. Relly didn't suffer the minor
can't
injury
prove that.
because the defendant didn't try to shoot him. He suffered the minor injury because he used Ills as a shield, and for whatever reason, the defendant didn't hit him. At least didn't hit him other than in his hand. But the idea that you need to look at the gunshot and the fact that Relly is already grabbing Ills as a shield, that's just misleading. It just doesn't work. I'm going to play this now in half speed. Let's see what he's saying. And the idea, by the way, that Ills, that 12 is running away because Relly is trying to attack him is absurd. If you knew nothing, all you saw was this video and somebody told you, hey, listen, that's a fake gun, and everybody knows it's a fake gun, you would go, well, wait a minute. If it's a fake gun, why is everybody running around? Why is Relly grabbing Ills as a shield? Why is 12 running away? By the way, how does this incident end?
Not what it looks like to me.
This incident ends not because the defendant voluntarily says it's over. 12 literally is blocking him and pushing him away. The defendant's fired up. He's angry. We don't know what was going to happen next, but it's not as if the defendant decided on his own, you know what, I'm done. 12 pushes him away. So this is the close-up. And again, this is a little bit harder. This needs to be played at half speed. I got it. This needs to be played at half speed. Again, we already know that you've got... By the way, the only thing that Mr. Tacopine did not accuse Relly of was planting the nail on the seat. And I was waiting for it. I was waiting for him to say, Relly planted the nail. He was trying to get me. So, you know who we have. Defendant, 12E, and we've got, which is hard to see, we've got Relly and Ills.
It's hard to
so
see.
What happens? You watch for yourself. You're going to see Relly reach and then move. When Relly reaches and moves, when the defendant reaches and moves, that's when the gun is out. Whoops. Sorry.
Get it together, y'all.
So here we go. Boom. You see him reach, guns out. 12 moves. Relly is running, trying to get behind Ills. He's not beating Ills. And what is Rocky doing? He's running around, trying to get a shot, and he's going to fire. And when he fires a second time, the gun is outstretched, aiming at Relly.
It's not.
And now look, there's 12 grabbing him and making the defendant go away. That's how this thing ends. Again, and I understand it.
So why does Relly go back? This whole thing doesn't make sense. And did Rocky shoot the gun with his right hand? Because when the gun allegedly fell out, he had it in his left hand. If he's right-handed, why would he have the gun in his left hand? To me, it would make more sense that he, as it was falling out, he grabbed it with his left hand.
You guys don't want to believe that this man who has everything, is going to give it all up for this. I get it. But that's a decision he made. I didn't make it for him. You didn't make it for him. The judge didn't. Mr. Tacopina didn't. He made that decision on November 6th. And what's crazy is that apparently Relly would have been more than willing to take the money and not cooperate with anybody. And by the way, why is that? Do you think that if you are in the hip-hop rap community, that going to the police and filing a case against ASAP Rocky is going to help your career? It's done. When Rocky was saying, and you heard it before, hey, I'd be on the beach, he would have been on the beach. So not only did the defendant commit this violent crime, but in the end, his attitude was, no, I'm not doing anything. Now, that's arrogant, but it's what happened. And I want to make sure that no matter how successful he is, how famous his wife is, how cute his kids are, how much they giggle here during closing arguments, that you guys are not going to say, you know what?
Yikes.
We're going to give him a little extra.
Leave the kids out of it, man.
Like you would treat any other person. because in the end, that's all that he is entitled to. He doesn't get to be the big celebrity in a jury trial. He's a defendant like anyone else. Okay, so what happens after the shooting? Immediately, Relly understands what's going on. So we had, this was very interesting, we had the officers called, and the whole idea is, we know that this incident never happened, meaning it was only a fake gun because they didn't find the casings. But what became very clear, ladies and gentlemen, is the defense did not realize until we called our witness, started questioning Lou Levin. They did not realize, it turns out that the prop gun, which was apparently a 9mm prop gun using 9mm ammunition, prop ammunition, is going to have the same brass, maybe lighter, but it's going to eject the casing the same way a real 9mm does, because as Lou Levin told you, and I think it's 12 he told you, who knows less about guns, the point of those prop guns is they're supposed to look realistic. And if they don't eject the casing, they're not realistic. And any of you who've ever seen a firearm, any semi-automatic firearm, understands that in order for a second shot to be fired, unless you're going to manually take a round out and put it in, which you don't do in a semi-automatic, it's got a chamber and cycle around. That's what it does. They didn't realize that. So what happened is they spent a bunch of time talking about the incredible investigation that the LAPD officer did on the scene. I asked you during voir dire, are you going to be able, in this case, are you going to be able, if you don't have every question answered, to come to a verdict, if the evidence demonstrates to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the case is proven? Each one of you said, no, you know what, I don't need every question answered. Let me tell you a question we can't answer. I cannot tell you why LAPD did not find the casings that night. Don't know. They certainly looked.
Well,
but here's what we know. They didn't find any casings, meaning if the defendant's position is correct, if the defense position was the prop gun is correct, there should have been casings there for the prop gun. They weren't. And what we know is, Relly went back and he found them. And I'm going to go through and explain to you why that's credible evidence. So what happens? He goes back, he texts and he says, hey, you tried to kill me. Okay? What are you talking about? Why are you telling people I shot you? That's what the defendant says. By the way, the defendant's position now, their defense is that he shot him, it was just a prop gun. Mm-hmm. So the question isn't that the defendant is lying here. He clearly is lying. He's just saying, oh, it's prop gun. So, Relly says, you tried to set me up and take me from my daughter. He is saying, you tried to kill me. That night, in that text. Relly doesn't know we're going to trial. And what's the defendant's response? Not, hey, that was a prop gun. It's, stop making shit up. So, this is what they say is the big evidence in this case. Yes, Relly decided that rather than cooperate with the police, he was going to try to get a bunch of money.
Brother needs a new suit.
Is that the honorable thing to do? Is that the good civic-minded thing to do? Of course not. Because the defendant firing his gun in the middle of Hollywood jeopardized everybody. It's not just a crime against Relly, it's a crime against us all. But Relly didn't care about that. And by the way, eventually, when there's a civil trial, I'm sure that the civil lawyers will be arguing that Relly doesn't deserve anything. And luckily, that's not my job. We don't represent Relly. We represent the people of the state of California. And we're here because the defendant committed a violent crime. We're not here asking for money for him. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you what he deserves. I have no idea. So, what's important here is he's explaining in this text that he wants to get the money, but he's explaining why. He shot at me. Relly never, ever, ever has been inconsistent in the fact that the defendant shot him, that he got hit. Never. Sure, was he not upfront about owning property in Miami? Some of the questions, how did you make money in 2021? Is this a picture of your girlfriend? Imagine if you are sitting here on a case that is
well, y'all were cooking his girlfriend too. Poor
You've already been threatened. Your family's been threatened. Your daughter's been threatened. Your girlfriend's been threatened. And now someone is going to ask the defense attorney, what's your girlfriend's name? Let me show you a picture of her for the world to see. What do you expect Relly to do? Okay, now we're going to get to the most important statement that Relly gives in this case. And let me tell you why it's so important. And again, some of you might be asking yourselves, why did the defense bring in this evidence? And let's be clear. When the defense says, well, we only brought Wally out here to testify to one thing, that's true. They easily could have played the call. There's no magic form where we got to play and they don't. They're arguing that Relly is inconsistent.
The objection could not be that.
I didn't hear the objection. What was around?
The entire call.
We played.
By the defense.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. The defense could have played the entire call. They didn't.
That was the objection.
Objection sustained. Go on a second. So we decided that we were going to play the entire call. And you can listen to this call. And let me tell you what's so important about the call. Relly does not have any idea that he is being recorded. He's not talking to cops. He's not talking to a prosecutor. He's talking to someone who he thinks is his friend. Now, that person isn't actually his friend. That person is an agent of Rocky. How do we know he's an agent of Rocky? Well, we know it for a couple of reasons. One, and again, this is how just lack of credibility filled Wally's testimony. Wally says that basically he just happened to record him. When I'm asking, wait, why are you recording him? Well, he had like 10 missed calls from me. Well, wait a minute. So your friend, you have 10 missed calls, you decided to record his call. He recorded him because he was trying to get information to help Rocky. And you know that because what does he admit that he did right afterwards? He calls Rocky and tells him what he said. But here's what's incredible. When you listen, I'm going to play it. Wally's testimony was he knew nothing about this incident before this phone call. Yet, you're going to hear him say, I'm not here to pick sides. So that's a straight lie. Of course he knew about it. He's Rocky's good friend. It's already been in the media. It's been blown up in hip-hop websites. Of course he knows about it. And when you listen, what is so crucial about this statement is this is Relly live, not in a courtroom, not to a police officer, to a friend where he's got no motive to make up anything, where he's explaining what happened. And he is literally incredulous. When you listen to this, what's going on is Wally is trying to get him to try to settle this thing for money. That's what's going on when you listen. And Relly's like, hey, I tried to settle it for money. He didn't want to do it. But in terms of the facts of what happened, he is crystal clear and consistent about everything that matters. So listen.
Yo, bro. Yo. Shit, bro, my bad. I'm on my grandma shit in bed, so you can... Oh, yeah. Craig. What happened, bro? You know, I'm not trying to pick sides. I'm mad at both y'all niggas for letting that shit happen, you feel me?
Oh, ain't no picking sides. That nigga 100% crazy and wrong.
Yeah.
100% wrong. And he got 12-year ills mixed, bro. I'm not... You gotta understand, Rocky been on his high horse for a very long time, you feel me? He didn't have to do what he did. I don't have, he forced my hand, you feel me? I got over 20 missed calls between him ills. Why is Rocky going out his way to do anything like that? You get what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure you can hear the story or whatever it is. But you gotta look at it like this. Why is he going out his way to call me 20 times after ills and 12 you with him? Text messages saying link up where you at. And all of this is because of I pressed him about Josh, him not doing right by Josh, and he spoke to Josh Martin live. You get what I'm saying? So I wrote him about that. He hits up Bari later about that, but I'm with Bari. Bari got the phone on speaker. You get what I'm saying? This shit didn't fit well with me. So Rocky talks about me within that conversation because he sees I text him about Josh. You feel me? He told me taking ASAP out my name. This was 7 months ago. I took ASAP out my name. You feel me? Yeah. He's a bitch, so he goes in and hit Bari because Bari an influencer a whole week later doing that complex con shit. You feel what I'm saying? Just so happened I'm with Bari while Rocky hits up. Rocky says my name. You get what I'm saying? Real Money 12-year bills is at his house. I hit Real Money the next morning, tell Real Money. I heard Rocky bitch ass tell him I don't fuck with him, whoopty woo, you feel me? No fighting words, none of that. Just basically, nigga, I heard you. But then Rocky said he was like a bitch because Bari had him on speaker. Rocky don't know who else heard that conversation, but he know I heard him talk about me. And I told Rocky over the years, nigga, if you have a problem with me, let me know, because I'm rocking in the sleep, you feel me? Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, I guess that was enough for him. He felt like a bitch because he knew I heard that conversation. I was supposed to hear that conversation because Rocky I never heard him say curse words or even have that type of energy towards me. You know what I'm saying? So now I know the real him. I tell Real Money, tell that nigga fuck him. You feel me? Boom, boom, boom. Shit is related to him. Next thing you know, I get over 20, 30 missed calls between him, Ills, and Rocky. Text messages. I'm staying at the Lowe's. I tell him he calls me. I finally answer because I'm sleeping. I answered. He's like, where you at? With a split voice. I'm like, huh? Where you at? Nigga, I'm at the W. I'm not really at the Lowe's. You feel me? There you go, Hollywood Boulevard. They all look the same. You're like, no, you're not. Nigga, that's a bum-ass hotel. I'm like, huh? He said, show me outside. Okay? All of it look the same. I showed him outside. What he does, be in 5 minutes. I'm like, all right. My girl like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I don't know. He calls me, he always calls me. Yeah, I got all these text messages, bro. You niggas is dumb. You and a couple only people who heard this story. Rocky out here, it's all sweet, but his life is really, and bro,
that's what I wanted to ask you, bro. Like, why boys though? You feel me? Why take it to you know the guys? You feel me?
Who, me?
Yeah, they know how the boys meet.
I wouldn't not, bro. He's a multi-millionaire. He blamed at me. I'm no longer on his level. Everybody turned on me. Everybody, bro. Rocky had everybody turned on me that day. Plus, what the fuck am I doing? Spin on his block and go shoot him up? Or do I cripple him? Because he's a multi-millionaire, bro. I'm not having nobody shoot at me where I'm taking him on the chin. And two, I'm not about to spin on Rocky's block. I'm already a millionaire, nigga. You get what I'm saying?
I feel you.
So what you looking for?
You're a black nigga. I'm teaching everybody how to get money, how to do this. You got to do that? Do you have a foundation for black people? Do you have a foundation for anybody? No, this nigga's Greek. You get what I'm saying? So I can't sit here and be like, oh, how you meet somebody like that, bro? You take away what they have, dogs. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not doing it on something like this, that, and the third, or some pokey shit. I would have had a guy lawyer the same day because he waited at me 4 or 5 times. I had to use ills as a shield or I'd be dead.
I feel niggas ain't trying to like, you feel me? You not trying to end squash this shit, get some paper or something, or what, you know? Like,
bro, it's too late. He told me suck a dick. Boom, boom, boom. I know John the same day.
He
bro,
said what?
He had nothing but time, bro. Man, I got the best lawyer in LA and worry about my business. You feel me? He told John to stop contacting me. I sent him the bullets, sent him the text messages of him, letting him know how serious this is. You know what he said? Nigga, fuck you. So what I'm supposed to do? I sent the nigga shooting at me 4 or 5 times, but I almost died. Or sue this man. Now coming with suing, of course, the severity of the case, he's trying to kill me. So that's what he gotta read. You feel me?
There ain't no way niggas could squat, like, you feel me? No paper, no nothing, bro. Like, you feel me? Like,
bro, he's a grown, he's 33 years old. He got other things talking for him. You know what he did? You get what I'm saying? He had more than enough time. This shit happened 7 months later. He was trying to reach out to me. He still didn't reach out to me.
With legal shit going on, boys, you know, so.
That's on him. I didn't want to go about that way. I had got a lawyer. When you get a lawyer that has nothing to do with boys, and Jabari is his friend, he might as well thank him for him not being licking the thing because those are allegations. You feel me? He got enough, and you're part of the PR team. He would have had enough people to block that if Jabari didn't say nothing, bro. Those are allegations. Jabari made it official.
Yeah, so what's the next, bro?
And Jabari's getting sued too. Jabari's getting sued for defamation of character.
Because everybody looked bad, bro. You know, I'm trying to.
He was bad. He did that, bro. I didn't call you. I didn't have a gun. He left his Hollywood house. Everybody saying everybody looks bad. Why everybody put the finger? Because when I take, bro, I got Hollywood. I got so many people.
Niggas were up together, bro. Niggas were up together, bro.
Niggas hanging. He's in the mansion. Nigga, I make my way around him every single time. That's him. He uses niggas. He used 12-year ills. Nigga, that was the whole joke about the whole shit with Barbie and the whole game. You know what I'm saying? The nigga asked his Barbie, is he coming to the complex? Nigga, Barbie laughs at him. Like, nigga, you're not using me. Nigga, the next conversation went about how he got 12 and ills on a jet or some other shit.
Because y'all niggas grew up together, man. Like, you feel me? Like,
I made that nigga fuck, bro. I made that nigga. Not no 12, not no jams. He ain't no jams. He popped up at my crib on purple swag. I made that nigga. That's why you feel like that, bro. I've been powerful. I've been Jabari never did, bro. I put every last goal on it.
I just want y'all niggas to kind of end this shit and, you know, find out.
And he could have ended it when he shot at me. Who ends anything when a nigga shoot at you 4 or 5 times? You gotta grab another member to protect yourself. He called me out my living space. Called me, told me stop ducking him. He planned it. That's called premeditated, bro. You feel what I'm saying? He didn't give me a chance. He told me I'm come down. I came to link him to see what the fuck this status was about. He pulls out. He tries to test on me. And then pull out a gun for self-defense. He's a pussy boy. And then else is standing in between while he's trying to shoot me. He didn't give me no second. First thing I done like that. And I got it all on camera. You don't want that, like, trust me. You stupid. He did it all on camera, champ. So the world looking at me because of Barry's mouth right now, but in a few seconds, if I wanted to do an HBO or anything, his whole career is fucked. Everybody's looking at me like a man.
That's what you, I like what's your, I guess what's the end game here, bro? Like, you feel me?
I'm suing this shit out of him. That was my game, and regardless, I don't give a fuck about no police, nigga. I'm going against a multi-millionaire that's trying to kill me.
So, really, get paper, bro, or you just trying to move on and shit?
Besides suing somebody like that, you feel me? Now he got to face the consequences of with that because he wanted to be a gangster and run out his career like that. That has nothing to do with me. You feel me? I did my part. They look at it on my end. What else am I supposed to do?
I mean, like, splash that shit in the streets type shit last night.
Ain't no street nigga. Bro, what the fuck?
I feel, bro.
You know who my family is? This ain't no street nigga. They ain't got 3 or 4 bodyguards, bro. Come on, don't do that.
Yeah, I feel you, bro.
Don't do that. Don't do that. This man running around with, come on. What street shit do he do, bro? This is a street nigga. You already know what happened. Everybody know what happened. We're talking about A$AP Rocky, bro. The face of Dior, like, come on, stop it. Same shit,
nah, I'm just trying to, I'm just, because I fuck with you heavy, bro. You know, I was always loved every time, nigga, and I fuck with you.
I'm trying to let people know, and the ones who's close by him, this ain't no, he ain't no gangster over there doing, bro, this ain't no gangster. If this was a gangster, this would be him in the streets.
So how niggas like,
got 3 4 bodyguards on 24/7.
So like, what's next though, bro? Like, niggas go to court. You feel me? Like, why not just watch
he's
this shit?
finished. He's finished.
Why not just ask for that, or, you know?
I tried already, bro. You don't ask for that because that's extortion, bro. You got somebody that's shooting at you. You ever look like I'm smart, bro? You gotta understand I'm not a dumb black nigga, bro. You know what I'm saying? You ask for a background or lawyer, bro, it's called extortion. You feel me? You gotta do everything accordingly. Everything accordingly, or it's gonna catch up with you.
All right, folks, this time take 10 minutes. Please be outside the courtroom doors at 2:45.
And that's how we're going to end it, with the call that he lied about. What do y'all think so far, man? This is crazy. I don't know why John's taking this angle. I'm missing something. Y'all have to let me know what you think in the comments in the chat. From the lies to the saying he's not a liar, they're a liar. It seems like he's focusing on the wrong things. I don't know. Let's skip ahead here, because this is struggling, man. Here we go.
Or the kids being wild.
Just them not being in the courtroom.
Oh, is this where John gets in trouble? Let's see. Let's skip ahead here.
Mr. Lewin,
Here we go.
on the record. In your argument, Mr. Lewin, you made reference to Rihanna being in the courtroom and the kids being in the courtroom. The manner in which you did it, I don't think is improper. However, for the balance of your argument, from here on out, there is to be no mention of Rihanna being in the courtroom or the kids being in the courtroom.
Just them not being in the courtroom, like you mentioned. Here's the problem, Your Honor. The defense got up.
I agree.
The impact this
That's some
case
BS.
on Rihanna.
I said in the courtroom.
Oh, just don't mention it.
Do not mention again Rihanna being in the courtroom or the babies being in the courtroom. There should be no mention of that.
I'm
Messed
trying
up.
to understand, but I can mention the issue.
Shout out to the judge.
Mr. Tacopina went into that.
Okay.
You're entitled to.
I was
No mention.
I was trying to
No mention.
report. I just wanted to understand what we got.
There should be no mention.
We'll do it.
Let's bring the jury.
Yeah, as it should be.
Try to be very, very careful.
All right, here we go. John's gonna get back into it. Yeah, it's just weird. Why are you bringing up the kids? They're supporting him. It doesn't.
Have to turn the back of the record. Parties are present.
He's not doing what he thinks he's doing, but maybe.
So that was the key evidence in this case regarding Relly. Could not have been more plain in what he said. Could not have been more credible regarding the issues that matter. And what are the issues that matter? The defendant shot him. The defendant brought a gun, a real gun, to the scene. What's interesting is that it's very clear, and you heard the testimony from Wally. Wally said he was, quote, mediating, which, please. At one point in time, what you heard him say, he changed the word, which my agent's going to. Also, I'll take it in a second. This is what happens when you get on the north. Mitigating, thank you. Later on, he said, no, he was trying to mitigate. Sometimes that's called a gaffe. A gaffe is something that you don't mean to say, but which turned out to be true. He was trying to mitigate for Rocky. And how do you know? Because he called Rocky immediately afterward. And then he's saying, I don't remember what Rocky said. I couldn't tell you. Why is he calling him? Why is he taping this? And why during this call, repeatedly, he is telling Relly, ask for a bag, meaning ask for money. Relly's telling him, I asked for money. He doesn't want to give it to me. Wally continually says, hey, basically, why are you taking it to the guys? Why take it to the boys? Meaning, why'd you bring the cops into it? He is doing the bidding for the defendant. And what's amazing, and again, it's not right, but the defendant, according to Relly, could have eliminated this whole situation by simply taking care of it with Relly. It wouldn't have been right. It wouldn't have changed what he did. But Relly apparently would have been on an island where we couldn't have found him.
That's what he said.
His choice, his option, his consequences.
He's
now,
saying he should have paid him? Dang.
The defense said
tough.
that
He's spending
we
that
believe,
man's money.
This is a quote, that tape is, quote, death to our case. I don't know what he means by death. That is not death to our case. That tape was the key to Relly's credibility if you believe it is important. In other words, that tape backs up every material point that Relly has made. Okay, believability of witnesses. In determining the believability of a witness, this is California 226, you may consider anything that has a tendency to prove or disprove the truthfulness of the witness. Again, I'll be very clear. 12 and ASAP Lou came in there, and they repeatedly lied just about almost everything. I'm not going to go through all the inconsistencies. 12 didn't want to concede that he's reliant on the defendant. Didn't want to admit that he's talked to the defendant. If you believe 12 and Lou, they've had almost no conversations about what happened in this case since the start. And if you believe Wally, even though Wally is, quote, mediating the situation, he's never talked to Rocky about it. He's never talked to 12 about it. How do you mediate a situation when you're only talking to one party? It's just not true. They lied. The difference between Relly and the defense witnesses is Relly was hostile. Relly was angry. Relly threw things. Listen, that wasn't appropriate conduct. You saw the judge. The judge was very frustrated with him. Everybody was frustrated with him. Listen, Mr. President, that was his witness. That's no easy task for him. But in the end, his credibility about what counts in this case was absolutely proven, and it was proven through their own witness. The evidence in this case, remember, we didn't have that tape. That tape came from Wally. We heard that tape only slightly before you did. Wally comes in and testifies, they play a snippet, and we play the rest. So when you're looking at the factors, you're looking at what witnesses are to be believed. They called 3 witnesses. All 3 of them perjured themselves. All 3 of them lied.
What?
All 3 of them came in to protect the defendant.
How?
And although they were calmer and more respectful, they perjured themselves in material areas. Relly, on the other hand, was truthful about everything that counted. So the defense focused on the fact that basically you didn't.
Well, I missed it. How did they prove that they were lying? Because they proved multiple times that their witness was lying. I don't see where he proved that they were lying.
Reject the testimony of Relly if you find that he lied about anything. However, California 226 tells you do not automatically reject testimony just because of inconsistencies or conflicts. Consider whether the differences are important or not. So listen, is it true that Relly, at points in time, was untruthful during his testimony? Absolutely. When he's saying, I don't know my girlfriend's name, of course he knows his girlfriend's name. When he's saying he doesn't know about a place in Miami that he purchased, of course he knows.
When he says the phone calls are a lie,
they're not only not important, they are completely irrelevant.
So, no big deal. So, Relly can lie on the stand. Fine. He's our witness. But those other guys, they can't lie. And I'm not going to prove to you that they lied. I'm just going to say that they lied, and you have to believe me. Got it.
In talking about ASAP Lou for a second.
He said his client, yes, he said his witness lied.
Okay, let's talk about the injuries to Relly's hand. Now, the defense said, hey, prosecution, you did not call a witness to come in here and say that that is a wound from a gun. How is somebody going to be able to come look at an injury and tell you where it came from? Now, here's what you have to ask yourself. If there was something about that injury that was inconsistent, where it could not have come from a firearm.
Is this an exhibit? It's not evidence.
I believe this is the correct exhibit. Is this
It's the incorrect.
Oh, you know what? Hold on, let me back it up. That's my fault. I have the wrong picture. Excuse me. The same. Let me change it. Thank you. Okay, this is the correct exhibit. So we're still talking about the injury in the hands. And you know, without question, that if there was an expert who could come in here and testify, you know what? Those injuries could not have come from a graze wound. They would have called that witness. And again, how do you know? Look at the team that's standing over there. Look at the fact that they called in Wally. The purpose of calling Wally, bring him out from France, for thousands of dollars, obviously, was to simply impeach Relly with the fact that it was his voice.
He did it because
so if there was a medical professional who could come in here and tell you, well, that didn't come from a gunshot, you would have heard from them. And the failure to call a logical witness is something you can consider, and you should consider. And when the defense says, wait a minute, the people didn't call somebody in to testify, well, you have to ask yourself, if we call someone in to testify, what are we going to be able to get from them? Do you think, common sense, you don't have to be an expert, Who can look at an injury like this and say, yeah, that came from a bullet? You can't. You can look at it and go, okay, could it be a graze wound? Sure. So if the defense had an expert that was going to say what they wanted, you would have heard from them.
It's not.
Okay, let's talk about Gills for a second. This was, again, the defense went all in on a couple of things.
I mean, what are you going to ask the expert? Hey, have you ever seen somebody that had a bullet that grazed their knuckles? I mean, what are we saying? Or a bullet, can you show us an example of what a bullet grazing looks like? Is this consistent with that? What are they going to say? Maybe? I guess it's possible. Jeez, man.
One of the things that went all in was that if there were casings at the scene, LAPD would have found them. Well, they didn't realize that the prop gun put out casings as well, and therefore the question isn't that LAPD missed the 9mm casings in this case. The issue is that without question, whether it was the 9mm or the prop gun, it would have left casings, and LAPD missed it. Why? We'll never know. Why did Relly find it? Well, he had the advantage of knowing exactly where it was. Same thing with Ills. Again, the plan was clearly from these witnesses, and particularly from 12E, we're going to build up the fact that Relly gave Ills a beatdown. This had to do with his strength, how strong he is. He's punching him in the fist. Remember the judge? I still think there's a difference between a closed fist and a regular fist. But the judge, if you remember, when I mentioned closed fist, the judge said, well, a fist is a fist. It doesn't really matter. Their testimony was, and even today, you got the defense saying how
open fist like this.
Relly is landed haymakers on Ills. They said that he was bleeding. Okay? Relly's a big guy. He's very strong. They said he was punched in the face at least 3 times. Well, I guess they didn't realize we were going to have a video the next day, less than 24 hours later. And this is from the video. Look at his face. No injuries. No injuries. Nothing. 0. Still photo from the video. Nothing. That is not the face of somebody.
What's that right there? I don't know.
That was punched in the face repeatedly, given a beating by a large, strong man less than 24 hours before. Someone who they said was bleeding from an injury to the lip where we see nothing. And by the way, where is Ills? Ills is his friend, Rocky's friend. If you think for a moment that Ills would have had something helpful to say in this case, they would have called him. And when they said, wait a minute, the people needed to call him, why on earth would it make sense for the people to call one of the 3 individuals who was clearly involved in ambushing Relly in the first place and who is reliant on the defendant for his career? If Ills had anything helpful, they would have called him.
Didn't he get upset about the same thing?
I brought this up in
come on.
In what year? And this is really important, an idea that I wanted to make sure you guys understand. We mentioned that we might have to be a little bit aggressive on cross-examination. And I wanted to make sure, and I asked you all in advance, hey, listen, if we have to be aggressive in cross-examination with witnesses, are you going to hold that against us? You all said that you wouldn't. Now, whether you all found Mr. Prislenik to be too aggressive, too loud, too mean, I can't control this man. I can try, but it's impossible. And again, I make that joke because obviously, I'm an intense guy. This is a serious situation we're in. And Mr. Pacapino got up here, he explained to you what it's like to be a defense attorney, what it's like to have what he said as an innocent client. Let me tell you something. I want you to imagine right now that someone you cared about was a victim. What kind of prosecutor would you want? Would you want somebody who takes what they're doing seriously, who is aggressive, who does their job, and who goes after witnesses who need going after? So I'm not asking you guys to like me. It'd be nice if you did. That's not what this case is about. It's not about me, my personality. It's not about Mr. Pacapino's personality. It's about what the evidence in the case is. And there's a great quote. Professor John Henry Whitmore, Northwestern Law School dean, he also wrote a series of books, legal books. He was a scholar. And what he said was, cross-examination is beyond any doubt the greatest legal engine ever invented for the discovery of truth. The defense put up 3 witnesses who lied about basically every material fact they were asked about.
It's fact.
Those lies were exposed through cross-examination. Was it gentle? It wasn't. But that's what it took. And I want to apologize for it. I said before, I can't expect you all to do your job if I don't do mine. All right, let's talk about what the elements are of assault with a semi-automatic firearm, 245. One, you don't need to actually touch someone with it. So the fact that did the defendant touch Relly with the gun on the first incident, it doesn't matter. By the way, he pulls the gun out. If any of you are buying the idea, as 12E said, that it fell out when his pants were being pulled up, then I'm up here wasting my breath.
Dang.
I would add that you're all intelligent people, and if anybody...
I knew he was going to say, y'all are smart.
That, I would ask you to ask yourselves and to ask them, is that what you think, or are you trying to find a way to not convict this man because of who he is? The issue of treating everybody equally, it's paramount to our criminal justice system. So, again, back to the elements, you don't need to actually touch someone. The evidence is that he did. You do not need to intend to use the force, meaning you don't have to pull that gun, meaning that you're planning on shooting it. You don't actually need to injure someone. You don't need to fire the gun. You don't even need to point the gun at the victim. This is in the instruction. And that also goes for the personal use of the firearm. Now, the one thing is, it has to be a firearm. And again, I'm going to go back to this because it's so important.
That's again the problem. He's asking them, if you believe it fell out, then I'm up here wasting my breath. The problem is you have to prove that it did not fall out. That's the thing John Lewin is failing to miss. And here's where reasonable doubt comes in, because as he said, it's not reasonable doubts, it's reasonable doubt. Fine, reasonable doubt. You're saying he should be convicted because he pulled the gun. Did you prove that he pulled the gun? What? Oh, hell no. Did you prove he pulled the gun? And we're talking about two instances, right? Because there's two counts. In the first one where he's tussling with Relly or whatever you want to say, he goes off camera and then he comes back on camera and the gun is out behind his back in his left hand. Did they prove that he intentionally pulled it out of his waist and brandished it? Whatever you want to say. I'm not seeing it. You're saying, oh, well, if you believe that, then I'm wasting my breath. No, it's your job, sir.
The defense is it was a prop gun. That's the issue in this case. They say it's prop gun. They say all the evidence shows it's prop gun. We say it's firearm. Once you decide that it is a firearm, that means that their entire defense has fallen apart. And now what Mr. Tacopina apparently wants you to do is say, well, even if the witnesses we put on lied, even if it was a real gun, here's why it was self-defense. There's an old story about it's a civil case, civil lawyer, and he has a dog bite case, and he is defending his client with the dog, and they're being sued. The client is being sued because his dog has allegedly been so. He gets up and closes an argument, and he says as follows: hey, listen, my client's dog, there's no way he could have done any kind of damage to the plaintiff because he was on a leash. He was in the yard, could not have gotten to where he says he got. But if you find that he was loose, the dog's old, and he couldn't have done any damage with those old teeth of his. But okay, if you find that he was off leash and he had some big teeth, well, my final defense is my client doesn't own a dog. That's what we have here. It's no different. It's a prop gun. Absolutely a prop gun.
What?
Evidence doesn't show it's prop gun, but it's prop gun. But if you find it's not a prop gun, here's why Rocky fired a real gun in self-defense. It is almost insulting because it is so inconsistent. So when a defendant acquits and positions himself to carry...
Joe, man, hey, stay chill, Joe. I don't like Joe shaking his head like that. No, what they're saying is, real gun or not, the only reason the gun came out is because of self-defense. So if you want to believe it's a prop gun, okay, then there's nothing there. If you want to believe it's a real gun, prop gun or real gun, he pulled it out because he was trying to do it in self-defense. At least that's how I see
out the
it.
battery. He has the present ability required, even if some steps remain to be taken. This is basically saying once he's taken that gun out and he's committed the assault, when that gun comes out, at that point in time, the assault's done. So this is the 3470, the right to self-defense. And this is really important because remember, it only applies if it is a real gun and not a prop gun. But it's a little more than that, because what it basically says is you have to show that they are acting in lawful self-defense or a defense of another. The defense position in this case is that the defendant was acting to protect Relly and Ills. But it's more than that, okay? So basically they're saying that the defendant believed that he, Ills, and Twelby were in imminent danger, okay, of suffering bodily injury. And by the way, and you all know this, if someone is in danger of being touched unlawfully, you can't shoot them, okay? You don't have to actually go through jury instructions to figure that out, okay? If I go and I slap one of you guys, you can't shoot me. And why is that? Because he's got to believe that the immediate use of force was necessary to defend against the danger, and that it was no more force than was reasonably necessary to defend against the danger. So what does all this mean? Well, they're basically claiming that the defendant used a prop gun, which means self-defense doesn't apply. So as soon as you find that out, you're done. But they're also arguing, hey, if you find, well, there was a gun, even though that's not our argument. And Mr. Tacopina wouldn't come out and say it. But that's what the law is. If you don't believe me, you can ask the judge. Self-defense only applies in this case if it's a real gun. And the problem is, it also only applies if the force used was no more than reasonably necessary to defend against that danger. And now let's look at what that alleged danger is. There is no beating up of Ills, okay? There was no beating up of Ills. It's a lie. It's not true. You see the video.
Yeah, we see the video. It looks like he's beating up Ills. But either way, y'all let me know in the comments in the chat, do you think, if you're on the jury, let me ask it this way. If you're on the jury, do you think it was a real gun? Answer that question for me.
But even if somehow you wanted to argue, and you know it's a lie, because you can see that the gun, you can't see what the item is. So let's be clear. You can see Rocky pulling something out. You can't tell what it is, but you can then see that what he takes, he ends up putting out in front of him and aiming and shooting. That is what prompts Relly to grab Ills. They say, well, he had to use, I guess, and Mr. Tech can never argue this. He can't because it's inconsistent with his theory. But the theory would have to be that Rocky ended up firing the gun at Relly, because Ills was in imminent danger. What imminent danger? He's got no injury. It's made up. The defense is created. It didn't happen. Very important. Belief in future harm is not sufficient. So even if you somehow believe that Relly was going to cause future harm, it doesn't work. He has to have believed at the time that there was imminent danger of bodily injury. Imminent danger of bodily injury. Okay?
And this is one of the reasons I said I, as a juror, would have liked to hear ASAP Rocky testify. So yeah, I saw my boy over there. He's getting roughed up. And he was going to throw him to the ground. This is what he said that made me think that. And then he started doing it. Shots fired.
That's what you need. It has to be reasonable. And he has to act because of that belief. You don't have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the defense didn't really argue it. Because they are riding the boat. Their position is the dog was off the leash. Sorry, the dog was on the leash. Not that the dog had no teeth, and not that the guy didn't know the dog. But in the end, that's what their argument requires. You have to believe inconsistent defenses. It just doesn't work. Now again, the slightest touching, we're not talking about the slightest touching. They're basically saying that in the first incident, they're trying to argue that Relly is the aggressor when the facts in the video don't show it. Even if he grabbed his arm, no one says he has a weapon. You cannot pull a gun on somebody who doesn't have a weapon, who's not physically hurting you. You can't threaten him with a firearm. I mean, I don't have to explain that to you all. You understand that. You can't do it. It doesn't work. So we have the burden of proving that beyond a reasonable doubt. However, again, it doesn't come into existence until you find that it was a real gun. And once you find it's a real gun, it means their entire defense was fabricated. It wasn't true. Automatically. There was no way that it could be a real gun and the defense was not fabricated. Those are impossible. Those are mutually inconsistent possibilities. And when I say possibilities,
that's why they're saying it's a prop gun.
So, a person who starts a fight has a right to self-defense. Relly did not start this fight. The defendant started this fight. And he has to actually, in good faith, he's got to try to stop fighting, which he doesn't. He's the aggressor. Both incidents. And in no way is element 2 satisfied either. So you can play games debating how a self-defense claim that the defense is not even relying on doesn't apply to the case. But you know that. Their defense is, no question, it's prop gun. A person also cannot claim self-defense if they are the one that provokes a fight or quarrel with the intent to create an excuse to use force. And that's what happened here. Relly didn't even use any force. Basically, the defendant assaults him with a firearm because he's mad at him.
Relly said,
shoots at him again because either Relly said something or he's still angry. So, in the end, the statements, Terrell gave a lot of statements in this case. And about all the issues that matter, he was consistent. Now, they want to say, but wait a minute. He originally said it was 3 to 4 shots. And imagine for a second. Remember, he doesn't know in advance the defendant is going to shoot.
There's no way he believes
memory. And you can all, it's not hard to imagine, you're in a situation where you believe you're fighting for your life. How do you know that Relly was fighting for his life? He's telling Wally he was fighting for his life. He's saying, the defendant tried to take it from his daughter. He believes at the time the defendant has fired 3 or 4 shots. And when he talks to Wally, he says 5 shots. That doesn't matter. That's not a question of credibility, and here's why. If Relly were making this up, and remember what they're saying. They're also saying that Relly had to have planted the 9mm casings. Okay? And let's talk about that for a second. It's important. They are saying, hey, listen, Relly was out here 2 weeks before this shooting, and we don't know that he went back home. So apparently, Relly planned this out in advance. He got 9mm casings from when he went target shooting, knowing that 2 weeks later the defendant would be upset with him, would text him repeatedly, and would assault him with a 9mm firearm, and he would have casings ready to put at the scene. But just to make it extra difficult, he's going to tell the cops, you know what, I got shot 3 or 4, there were 3 or 4 gunshots, but he's only going to turn in 2 casings. So remember, if he's making up this whole thing, which of course he isn't, he is certainly going to produce the amount of casings at the scene that he is saying happened. That's an irrefutable concept. And that's not what occurs. And the idea that somehow Relly is Nostradamus and knows all these things are going to happen. And let's look at what had to occur. It's 10 p.m. on a Saturday night in Hollywood. Relly doesn't live here. We know from ASAP Lou, he can't go out and buy ammunition. He doesn't have a gun. So he certainly could not have, after this incident, bought a gun, fired the ammunition, and dumped it at the scene. So that means that he's carrying around 9mm casings just in case the defendant assaults him. It's absurd. Then they say, well, wait a minute. You know that it's made up because look at the magazine that's found at the defendant's house. And now we go back to ASAP Lou. Listen, ASAP Lou, Prislemek, he really covered it pretty accurately. He's a Swiss Army knife of assistants, advisors, security stuff. You need a personal assistant, lose your guy. You need someone to give you advice on security, lose your guy. You need someone to come over to stay for a search warrant, lose your guy. You need someone to help you get a prop gun, lose your guy. You need someone to get rid of that prop gun after an incident where that prop gun will prove you to be innocent, lose your guy. Lou's version of what happened is nearly impossible. What is that version? And this is really important because remember, we didn't find out about it at the time. So here's what we know. The evidence in this case that you have, and I confronted the witnesses, is that 12 testified that what he told the defense, what was in the statement we were given, was that the defendant decided to carry a prop gun because he had been the victim of home invasions and violence. Let's just look at that for a moment. Nothing about any particular incidents. And then he gets on the stand and he starts testifying about all these incidents, but he says, oh, well, I told them. I told them about it. I think I told them. I guess I don't know. These alleged incidents of prior violence. And supposedly there's a security person. Just think about this for a moment. 12 testifies that the defendant and he were stabbed at a club with a knife. That there's been a crazy stalker inside the defendant's house. That he's been the victim of other violence. And we're to believe that a security consultant said, hey, you know what you should do? You should carry a fake gun. Because individuals who are going to, and by the way, a home invasion, defense counsel, when it's different when you're at your home. That's what 12E said. Those were his words, home invasions and violence. Someone comes in your home. How is a prop gun going to help you? How is a prop gun going to help you against anybody? As soon as you pull a prop gun on somebody, they are going to believe that that prop gun is real. And if they have their own weapon, out of necessity, they're going to have to fire back. It's not just bad advice. It's complete insanity and it's made up. But the situation here is even worse. Because remember, they're saying that Relly knew it was a prop gun from the start. If he knows it's a prop gun, then what is the use in Rocky pulling it out in the first place? It would have no value. Relly said, of course I didn't know it was a prop gun. It wasn't a prop gun. It shot me. But the idea, you don't even need Relly's testimony. The idea, they're the ones saying, their defense is, Relly knew it was a prop gun. He stands up and says, put that fake-ass gun away. You look at him in the second incident. Is he acting like that's a fake-ass gun? Is anyone acting like it's a fake-ass gun? Is the defendant acting like it's a fake-ass gun? Of course not, because it wasn't fake. And now let's look at Lou.
They kind of were.
Lou says, well, so here's what happened. Originally, we hear nothing about the circumstances of I went over to the house and we were going to go shooting. We don't hear any of that. All that he says, now he said, I might have told the defense, I might not have, I don't remember. I didn't get into particulars. Are you kidding me? It's the entire case. But all of a sudden, he gets on the stand and he says, for the first time, well, here's what happened. I was going to teach the defendant, we were going to go shooting at a gun range. So I brought my Glock 380, which does not use 9mm ammunition, and I brought my Smith & Wesson 9mm, which cannot use a Glock 9mm Glock 43 magazine. It won't fit. They don't even look anywhere the same, and that is from Lou. Look completely different. He says, he gets over to the house, and that's when he realizes for the first time, oh my God, I bought the wrong magazine for my Glock. Now, does it make sense that he felt a need to go out and buy a magazine for his gun, and then did not find out for some period of time, he wouldn't say where he bought it, when he bought it, and it was not for the right gun, but he made another mistake that he clearly wasn't aware of. I confronted him with the fact, he said, well, so I realized when I was over there, I tried to put the 9mm, or the 380 ammunition in, and it wouldn't fit. Okay. But why was it found loaded completely with 9mm ammunition? As soon as it didn't fit, he would stop. And after, well, I'm a fidgety dude. So while I was drinking, I was fidgeting just loading a gun, loading a magazine for a gun I don't have and the defendant doesn't have. They spent a lot of time telling you, well, wait a minute, that magazine is new, hasn't been used. I asked Lou, isn't it true, Lou, that when you buy a new gun, most of the time they come with two magazines? Well, I don't know, I usually only buy one. Well, it's interesting because he clearly went out and bought a second magazine for the 380, so not quite understanding what that means. But what is very clear, ladies and gentlemen, is here's what happened. Lou doesn't own a Glock 43. He's never had one registered, so he has no reason to have a magazine for a gun he doesn't own. The defendant doesn't have a Glock 43 magazine. He has no reason to have a Glock 43 magazine for a gun he doesn't own. However, there is evidence that suggests that the gun that was used in this crime was a Glock 43. It doesn't have to be, but it is consistent with the evidence. And what is clear is that the defendant got rid of the gun after the incident. Now, he says the gun he got rid of was a prop gun. That's not what the evidence shows. He got rid of that 9mm and the magazine that went with it. But he clearly forgot that in his closet was a second magazine for that gun. A magazine that clearly was not being used in that gun and very well might have been new because he was using the magazine that was in the gun when it was fired at Relly. So Lou's version is completely...
Yeah, he forgot? What? Come on, man. Come on. He forgot, and then it was loaded with the wrong ammo. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Completely
doesn't make sense.
But it's even worse than that. So they apparently have this information. 12E and Lou have information about this prop gun that will completely prove that the defendant did not commit this crime. And when does it get turned over to prosecutors and police for the first time? January 20th, the day before this trial started. Now they say, oh no, but actually, we told them about it in August 16th or 17th of 2024. That's still almost 3 years after the incident occurred. Remember, ASAP Lou is at the house when the search warrant is served. He didn't even have to go to the police. All he has to do is say, hey, you know what? That magazine, that 9mm magazine, that's mine. By the way, it was a prop gun that he had. Nothing. You know why he didn't say?
Hey, I love y'all, but if I leave a magazine at your house and the police are there raiding the house, I ain't saying shh. And I'm definitely not saying, oh, hey, y'all, you guys chill. That gun over there, it's mine. Don't worry about it. Can I go now? What?
Because he hadn't made up the defense yet. That's why. Do you know why 12 didn't say anything? Because he hadn't made up the defense yet. That's what the evidence shows. And then what happened? Literally on February 9th, the morning that Lou was going to testify, we are given information. Oh, it turns out that Lou gave the gun to somebody in New York. And that's why they don't have the gun. Now remember, we're finding this out on what is basically the last day of the trial. We don't have the ability to get that person. But the defense, that's someone they've known about all along. Where is he to testify about this gun? They're saying we have to bring this person out here when there's no reason to believe that anything that person is going to say is true. But we're supposed to bring that person out here who we don't even know exists to prove that it's not a prop gun. I'm sorry, that it's not a prop gun when that's their witness. Do you not think for a moment
you have to prove it
that if that witness could have withstood cross-examination, they would have brought him out here? Of course they would have. And how do you know that any of this is true? Because we're instructed on it. So the defense spent a long time attacking me, primarily me, attacking Relic. Where is the instruction about evidence that I ended up fabricating? It says if the defendant tried to hide evidence or discourage someone from testifying against him, that conduct may show that he was aware of his guilt. What does that mean? That instruction is because the defendant, by his own, meaning the defense admission, through their witnesses, is that the defendant got rid of the prop gun, the piece of evidence that would demonstrate that he's innocent of these charges, that he got rid of that gun after the incident. The judge isn't going to give that instruction unless that instruction is something you can consider. Not going to do it. What does it say? If the defendant tried to hide evidence or discourage someone from testifying against him, that conduct may show that he was aware of his guilt. You conclude that the defendant made such an attempt, it is up to you to decide its meaning and importance. However, evidence of such an attempt cannot prove guilt by itself. So in other words, just because the defendant got rid of the gun, that's not enough to prove to you by itself that the defendant is guilty of these crimes. But when you put it with everything else, it is a huge piece of evidence. If someone other than the defendant tried to create false evidence, provide false testimony, or conceal or destroy evidence, that conduct may show the defendant was aware of his guilt. But only if the defendant was present and knew about that conduct, or if not present, authorized the other person's actions. Circumstantially, the evidence suggests that ASAP Lou and 12 and Wally are not doing this on their own. The evidence, the direct evidence from Wally is that he talked to the defendant immediately afterwards, their conversation. The idea that ASAP Lou and ASAP 12 were not having repeated conversations about this incident strains any even idea of reality. You all know that's not true. Of course they talk about it. Obviously, it's a huge incident that occurred. So that is an instruction you were given. It doesn't say anything about Relly. There's no instruction like that for Relly in this case. Flight. If the defendant fled immediately after the crime was committed, that conduct may show that he was aware of his guilt. What does that mean? After the incident, guys, the second incident, he takes off. If it is in fact, if it was simply a prop gun, why is he running? Why is 12 running? Why are they getting out of there? Why are they getting rid of the gun? I mean, I'm trying to argue, you guys, why is the sky blue? And I hope that when you're listening to it, I hope you're all understanding this is not a complicated, complex case. In the end, the evidence in this case, almost all of it, it's not circumstantial. So the video is direct evidence. It's direct evidence of what happened. The testimony of the witnesses is direct evidence. Relly's statement on the call is direct evidence. The testimony, as incredible and unreliable as it is, of Wally, of 12, and of ASAP Lou is direct evidence. This is not a circumstantial evidence case. About the only circumstantial evidence in this case that you have that matters is circumstantially we have to prove that the defendant pointed the gun at Relly in the first incident because we don't have it on video. But we've got his gun being pulled out. We have his gun in front of him, and we have Relly in that position. We have him fighting with Relly right before and fighting with him right after. So the only reasonable interpretation of that circumstantial evidence is what you're seeing. Defendant's failure to call logical witnesses. This is really important. I mentioned this before. Every argument that the defense made. The defense, and again, I'm not blaming Mr. Tacopina. The witnesses got up here and lied. Mr. Tacopina gets a statement from the witnesses. The witnesses say what they're going to say. He calls them. Mr. Tacopina does not vouch for his witnesses. Meaning, just as we don't. We call witnesses, and those witnesses testify, and you evaluate them. However, it is certainly legitimate that all these individuals that the defense is saying, why didn't the people call them? Those are witnesses that they are saying we have to introduce to disprove their fabricated defense, which we don't have the ability to do because they control that evidence and information. They got the prop gun, we don't. They have these witnesses they don't tell us about, we don't. We have proven that this was not a prop gun in every way that we can. It defies common sense, it defies logic, and it defies all the other evidence that we can give. Now listen, I'm not blaming the defense for what they've come up with. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Okay? That's what they tried to do. They have tried to take a case, and they got bad luck. Imagine, guys, for a second, if we didn't have those video cameras. Imagine what the defense would be. Well, you can't show anything happening. This is all made up. You got nothing. But we have the video. We have the gunshots. That's bad luck for the defendant. And again, that's the situation he made. That's his luck. Now, one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to go back there. And we talked a little bit about this before. Let's assume that somebody, when you go back there, starts saying, what if, isn't it possible that, could this have happened? You are not allowed to speculate outside the evidence. That also goes for things like, well, gosh, what if Rocky gets prison on this case? I don't want to go to prison. If any one of you feel that yourselves, you need to let the court know, I can't serve as a juror on this case. That's okay. Some of you during voir dire at points said, I don't know about certain things. And if you remember, the judge told different jurors, hey, listen, if at any point in time you cannot live up to your oath, let the judge know. If one of the rest of you is like, I'll give you an example. Let's say someone goes back there and they say, you know what, I really dislike DDA Lewin. I don't like him. I didn't like when I saw him. He's obnoxious, etc. Whatever.
I can see that.
If that is what you are basing your verdict on, it's improper. It's misconduct. If someone says, I'm never going to convict on a case because I don't like Lewin. If it's you and you can't get past it, you need to report yourself to the court. If it's someone else, they need to do it. We don't know if misconduct happens unless you let the court know about it. So if people, yourself,
he said, if you don't like me, you can leave.
You need to let everybody know. That goes the same for the celebrity issue. Okay? The defendant should not be convicted because he's a celebrity. But he also should not be acquitted because he's a celebrity. He should not be acquitted because he's got a lovely family. He should not be acquitted because he's successful and wealthy. He should not be acquitted because he can go out there and entertain people and make millions of dollars. Those are factors I'm not just recommending, you're not allowed to consider those factors.
Oh my gosh.
All you're doing
this is a
you're going to weigh the evidence in this case, and you're going to come to your decision. Reasonable doubt in this case. So, proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you with an inviting conviction that the charge is true. The evidence need not eliminate all possible doubt because everything in life is open to some possible or imaginary doubt. What does that mean? Well, it simply means that you're going back and you're going to look and you're going to say to yourselves, okay, here's the case that people presented. The people that presented evidence that the defendant used a real gun. Have we proven that it was a real gun? Not just from our case, but from the evidence that the defense put on as well. They've argued this is a prop gun. And when anybody goes back there and says, well, wait a minute, I don't like Relly, I don't find Relly credible. The problem is, what do you need to find Relly credible about? The evidence is they're admitting it's him. They're admitting it's a gun. They're admitting he fired it. They're admitting that's him at both locations. The only thing that they are really disputing is they're disputing that Rocky ever put the gun up to him in the first incident. Which, by the way, once he pulls it out, and he's pointing it, and you can see it, he doesn't have to point at it, but once that gun comes out in that situation, you can read the elements of 245. They've got it. The second incident's easy. He actually fires the gun. So, where exactly is Relly's credibility? Where is it material? It isn't. They have put Relly on trial in this case because in the end, he is a very convenient target. Legally, it doesn't work. Commonsensically, it doesn't work, but that's what they've argued. You can come and should come to the conclusion in this case, beyond a reasonable doubt, based on the video and based on the defense in this case. But if you need Relly's credibility, the best evidence you have comes from Wally, their witness, and that tape. That's the only thing you need to listen to. Any testimony in court, that's in court. Everyone knows what.
That's the only thing you need to listen to, and remember that our witness said those didn't exist. Every time I hear those phone calls, I think about Relly lying and saying, "Get that out of my face. That's fake." I don't see how they can do this.
We're in court. That is the one piece of evidence coming from the defense.
Yikes.
Where there's no argument that Relly knew it was being taped. There's no argument that he had any incentive to be untruthful. And you listen to him, and you know what he's saying is true. He is shocked. He is basically telling Wally, dude, I tried to get money for him. He don't want to give me any money. Why'd you bring the boys in? He won't give me any money. He tried to kill me. He tried to shoot me. No question. By the way, Wally never mentions it's prop gun because the defense had not been thought of yet. We started off in this case very early on. We started off with the situation with Boomer. And Boomer is a very important illustration of the difference between what's reasonable and what's possible. And as you remember, we know what happened. We know that the evidence demonstrated that Boomer was the one that got into the trash. And the evidence has demonstrated in this case, beyond any reasonable doubt.
Dang, he called Rocky a dog.
That the defendant, Keem Mayers, that on November 6th, 2021, that he committed these crimes. I'm going to end with this. We've done our job in this case. We have. We put on more than enough evidence through our case, through the cross-examination of witnesses. We've done our job. I'm going to ask you all to do yours, whether you want to convict the defendant or not. Based on the evidence, that's what you're compelled to do. Because we can't have individuals, we can't have them deciding that because they're angry or they're upset or they've been disrespected, that they're going to be allowed to go out and shoot at people on the street on a busy Saturday night. We cannot have it. As you go back there, and I'm going to say this again, the first thing that I would ask you to do is to decide, was this a prop gun or not? And if you decide it is a prop gun, for those of you who do, you're going to have to get past all of the nonsensical evidence in this case. You need to ask yourselves, are you following the evidence? Are you following your head, or are you following your heart for whatever reason? Once you do that, the case is over, because that means the defense is fabricated. That means it was a real gun. That means you can't believe anything that was said by any of their witnesses. And that means that in the end, the defendant used a real firearm and committed these crimes. Again, as defense counsel stated, I want to thank you all for your time and for your attention. And I too want to thank Judge Arnold. It's not been an easy case. And I want to ask, to the best of your ability, when you go back there, you pretend that he's not ASAP Rocky. You pretend that he's just a guy named Recaap Mayers. And you treat him the way you would treat anybody else who was accused of these crimes with this evidence. And when you return a guilty verdict, that is not on you. That's on him, because that is what the evidence has demonstrated. Do not let anybody tell you that you own his conduct. He owns it. On November 6th, he made a very foolish decision.
I agree.
A legal decision, a criminal decision, a decision that could have hurt
stupid decision
far worse than what happened. And it's your job and your responsibility to hold him accountable. Because if we're not going to hold privileged people accountable, who are we going to hold accountable? Again, thank you for your time and attention.
All right, there it is. What do y'all think, man? Redirect from John, the donut man, Lewin up in here. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat. Shout out to the donut man. That's what we're going to call him from now on until he changes up his reputation. Let's see what the judge is talking about. And then I'll probably let y'all get up out of here. Oh, before we do that, I got to shout out my guy, Dr. EJ. Just gifted 5 memberships. If you got a membership from Dr. EJ, make sure you say thank you and show him some love. He's always stopping by and showing major support. So thank you to Dr. EJ. I appreciate everything that you do, man. Said it was weak. The donut man. John, the donut man Lewin. That's what we're calling him from now on. Jeez. All right, let's skip ahead to see what Judge Arnold has to say at the end here. Here we go. There we go. Boom.
The first remark relates to the jury instruction on circumstantial evidence. It's jury instruction number 224. Jury instruction number 224 tells you everything you need to know about circumstantial evidence. There was some question about whether it was shown in its entirety. The entire jury instruction is in 224. Another thing I want to mention to you is I think it is very obvious that everyone at that table left it all out of the field. Everybody put out 150%.
So it was a good game.
I think that's very correct. I want to hopefully focus your duties by kind of summarizing something that both sides have mentioned to you. All right. The people have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the gun was real.
There you go.
If the people have not proven beyond a reasonable doubt
they haven't
that Mr. Mayers used a real 9mm, then the verdict is not guilty. If you do find that the evidence, that the gun was real, then you look at the 5 elements that are listed for assault with a semi-automatic pistol. That's jury instruction 875. You have to decide whether those elements, all 5 elements, have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Then also you can consider the jury instructions on self-defense and the defense of others. You have that jury instruction as well. So I'm hoping that this
they didn't prove it was a real gun.
Focusing how you deliberate. All right, I'm going to read the 2 final jury instructions. When I'm finished with this, I'm going to send you to where you're going to be deliberating. You won't be deliberating in the jury deliberation room here for this court. You'll be deliberating in the deliberation room that is from my court, which is Department 115 on the 11th floor. So when I release you, I'd like you to go to the 11th floor and go to Department 115. Department 115, it's right there when you get off the elevators. And Alex will meet you up there. He'll escort you into the jury deliberation room. You can take all of your materials,
shout out to
set
Alex.
them down, and you can leave for the day. On Tuesday, you must be here by 9 a.m. Jury deliberations start at 9 a.m. And when you show up on Tuesday, you're to gather outside the courtroom doors of Department 115 on the 11th floor. You want to say something?
Yes.
Same thing?
That's not too much of a problem. Can we start at 9:30? Like possible? And everyone's okay with that?
Is that what you all want? All right, I'm seeing nods. Yeah, all right, 9:30. 9:30. All right, here are the final 2 jury instructions. When you go to the jury room, the first thing you should do is choose a foreperson. The foreperson should see to it that your discussions are carried on in an organized way, and that everyone has a fair chance to be heard. It is your duty to talk with one another and to deliberate in the jury room. You should try to agree on a verdict if you can. Each of you must decide the case for yourself, but only after you have discussed the evidence with the other jurors. Do not hesitate to change your mind if you become convinced that you are wrong, but do not change your mind just because other jurors disagree with you. Keep an open mind and openly exchange your thoughts and ideas about this case. Stating your opinions too strongly at the beginning or immediately announcing how you plan to vote may interfere with an open discussion. Please treat one another courteously. Your role is to be an impartial judge of the facts, not to act as an advocate for one side or the other. As I told you at the beginning of the trial, do not talk about the case or about any of the people or any subject involved in it with anyone, including, but not limited to, your spouse or other family or friends, spiritual leaders or advisors or therapists. You must discuss the case only in the jury room and only when all jurors are present. Do not discuss your deliberations with anyone. Do not communicate using social media during your deliberations. It is very important that you not use the internet in any way in connection with this case during your deliberations. During the trial, several items were received into evidence as exhibits. You may examine whatever exhibits you think will help you in your deliberations. These exhibits will be sent into the jury room when you begin to deliberate. I made arrangements for a screen, a projection screen, to be brought into the jury deliberation. It's actually bigger than that.
Yeah,
So
they're going to be
if you
watching
want
that
to
video
view
over
the
and
videos,
over.
You'll be able to do that. We're going to need a clean computer, though, that they can use. You've got to connect the computer to the projector, which is connected to the screen. Mark, our audio-visual guy, he can show you how to do that if necessary. If you need to communicate with me while you are deliberating, send a note through the bailiff signed by the foreperson or by one or more members of the jury. To have a complete record of this trial, it is important that you not communicate with me except by a written note. If you have questions, I will talk with the attorneys before I answer, so it may take some time. You should continue your deliberations while you wait for my answer. I will answer any questions in writing or orally here in open court. Do not reveal to me or anyone else how the vote stands on the question of guilt or issues in this case unless I ask you to do so. Your verdict on each count and the special finding of the firearm allegation must be unanimous. This means that to return a verdict, all of you must agree to it. Do not reach a decision by the flip of a coin or by any other similar act. It is not my role to tell you what your verdict should be. Do not take anything I said or did during the trial as an indication of what I think about the facts, the witnesses, or what your verdict should be. You must reach your verdict without any consideration of punishment. You'll be given verdict forms. As soon as all jurors have agreed on a verdict, the foreperson must date and sign the appropriate verdict forms and notify the bailiff. If you are able to reach a unanimous decision on only one of the charges, fill in that verdict form only and notify the bailiff. Return any unsigned verdict form. To the alternate jurors, the jury will soon be deliberating, but you are still alternate jurors, and you are bound by my earlier instructions about your conduct. Do not talk about the case or about any of the people or any subject involved in it with anyone, not even your family or friends, and not even with each other. Do not have any contact with the deliberating jurors. Do not decide how you would vote if you were deliberating. Do not form or express an opinion about the issues in this case unless you are substituted in for one of the deliberating jurors. Will the clerk please swear the bailiff?
Yes, Your Honor. Please raise your right hand. Thank you. You solemnly state that you take charge of the jury and keep them together. You will not speak to them yourself, nor allow anyone else to speak to them on matters connected to this case, except by order of the court. When they have agreed on a verdict, you will return into court. Furthermore, you will take charge of the alternate jurors, keep them apart from the jury, whether it be learning on cause, until otherwise instructed by the court, so help you God.
All right, the case is now yours. Alex is going to meet you on the 11th floor in front of Department 115. He will escort the 12 of you into the jury deliberation room. You can put your materials down, and then you can leave for the day. Remember, 9 o'clock Tuesday, 9:30 Tuesday, please be outside the courtroom doors, not here, Department 115 on the 11th floor. The four alternates, I'd like you also to go up to the 11th floor now, and what I'm going to want you to do is to give Deputy Bennett your contact numbers. I assume you all have cell phones? All right, I'd like you to give Deputy Bennett your cell phone numbers so we can reach you in case we need you. And if we do call you, we're going to need you quickly. So while the jury is deliberating, you can be in the hallway, you can be in the jury assembly room downstairs, you can walk around, you can be in the cafeteria, but you have to be ready, willing, and able to come to the courtroom if you're summoned. All right, you folks are going to be excused now. Take all of your materials. Counsel needs to remain. We have a couple of counsel.
All right, there it is. Jury instructions. So we will have verdict watch tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. I have a feeling we're going to have a verdict tomorrow. Let me know in the comments in the chat what you think the verdict is going to be and why. Don't just say guilty. Don't say not guilty. Don't even say hung jury. Let me know why. All right. Shout out to the gang again. I appreciate y'all. This has been one for the books for sure. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be live. We don't miss Kill. What you talking about? Monday through Friday, we are here. So yeah, we'll be live tomorrow. I mean, shout out to Ryan S in the chat was asking about the instructions. The jury instructions the judge gave, I think, are very pro-defense. And I won't even say pro-defense. I'll say pro-defendant in this case. Because he's saying they need to prove that it was a real gun. Do y'all believe that they proved it was a real gun? No. Okay. If not, then this is over. If they did prove it was a real gun, then you have to factor in the fact that it may have been self-defense. Do you think it was done because of self-defense? I don't know. Y'all are saying not guilty, not guilty tomorrow because the state and really have been so unlikable and the state has not proved it's a real gun. ASAP Cap got caught lying too many times, and admittedly so, which is insane. Not guilty in an hour or less? Oh. Wow. I don't see deliberations will last more than an hour. Y'all are saying an hour, really? Not guilty, not guilty. See y'all tomorrow. Not a real gun. No evidence found, but it was also self-defense. I can see that too. Salute to the consistency, great content creation, classy. Thank you. I'm about to move around. Appreciate you, Freedom. Not guilty because the prosecution just ignored 12V's testimony entirely. I keep saying that. He took little shots here and there at 12V, but they didn't go through the story. They didn't show the video and breakdown. You see right here, it would have been impossible for him to have been struggling with ills, him being Relly. They didn't do that. Amy said, hopefully the verdict comes back ASAP. Come on, man. All right, I'm not reading any more comments after that. Amy wins. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you tune into the Song of the Night live tonight if you're down to listen to some music from the independent artists here in the community. Like the video on your way out, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any time that we go live. And you know, we'll be back tomorrow right here. As always, I appreciate y'all. Have a great afternoon. And you know what to do. Keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We go. Peace. Jeez. Can't believe I fell for that one.